Welcome to episode 14 of the Dimensional Cascade podcast, coming at you from the dungeon in Shoreline, Washington. With me tonight, I have
Tom
and
Jesse.
And I'm Aiden, and you may be expecting Ricky, we're expecting him too. He had to work late tonight. He's on his way. We have a special guest in Jesse. Jesse was on, I think, briefly in our Tournament Zone special for Wet Coast.
Wet Coast, yeah, just for a minute.
Yeah. Yep. And he's joining us tonight because he is our local undead champion, for want of a better word.
We could call him Nagash expert.
Yeah.
He's been pushing Nagash around a lot.
Well, I think he had the model painted before it came out, and and he's been beating us all up with it left, right, and center. So hopefully we'll have some interesting insights there on how to use Nagash and what's been fun and interesting and exciting with him on the battlefield.
He's got a good face for radio as well, Jesse does, which is why we invited him mostly.
Well, I think that could be said for all four of us. All right, so the theme of tonight's whole podcast is, of course, the End Times Nagash book. We will go into Campaign Corner where we'll talk about all of the fluff that comes in the book. And
spoiler alerts.
Yeah, lots of spoilers
coming at you.
We're not the first podcast to review it. So chances are, if you're a podcast listener, you've already had all the spoilers. But fair warning, if you don't like spoilers, you're going to have to skip the most of the podcast, really. Go and listen to something else.
Chances are, with the new book just around the corner, people have been madly reading through the Nagash book anyway. Yeah,
they'll have been exposed to it. So we will then, for our Art of War, talk about the new rules that come with the Nagash book and the changes that have come as a result of the End Times to Warhammer in general.
The game as a whole, yeah.
Yep. I think without further ado, we will get rolling.
News and rumors.
Okay, news and rumors. So, lots of news on the Chaos front.
Yeah, the interwebs are abuzz with the whole End Times 2 release.
Yep.
Which is Glotkin.
Glotkin with 2 T's. I'm already seeing lots of people spell it with just 1 T.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, terrible. And it's actually, they are the Glotkin.
The Glotkin, because they are the brothers Glot.
Yes. 3
brothers who are... So this, I guess, a lot will be revealed when the book actually comes out and we get to read it, but it's slightly confusing as to how the story is playing out, what Archaon's up to. He's just sending somebody else to go and wreck the whole empire for him.
Yeah.
While he sits pretty up north.
I think we should forego any real speculation on the storyline too much, because we're going to cover the Nagash stuff, and then
sure.
And then the storyline, I think, will be subject of another episode.
Indeed.
But let's talk a bit about the models. So there's been a bunch of Nurgle models. Did we talk about some of them last time?
I think last time we talked a little bit about the Blight Kings, and maybe the Magath Lords pictures had just been leaked, I think, when we were talking last time.
Right. And those Blight Kings, they're still bothering me. I have a feeling that the infantry entry in White Dwarf is still a misprint.
You think?
I think so.
So these, if anybody hasn't seen,
3 wounds.
They're big models. They're on 40 mil bases.
40 mil bases.
3 wounds each. But they're listed as just regular infantry. But I think it's deliberate.
You think so?
They're priced pretty reasonably if they were going to be monstrous infantry.
Well, how many points are they?
40 points each.
But that's the same as a troll, right?
Yeah, but they're tough 5.
Do they have any armor or regen or anything?
They got chaos armor, shields, choice of weapons, what they use in combat. Weapon skill 6, initiative 5. They're basically like chaos warriors on drugs with 3 wounds.
Okay. Well,
and if they were monstrous infantry as well and got the stomp and those shenanigans, immune to killing blow.
But the weird thing is, if you're on a 40 mil base, but you're only infantry, that means you have to be 5 wide to get a rank.
Yeah.
Right. And so now
they're sold in a box of 5, which makes me believe it is deliberate. Their infantry.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the models themselves, they're not actually much taller or anything than a chaos warrior. So I think they're supposed to be like just
fat.
like uber chosen
Yeah.
of Chaos, and they made the models and just couldn't get them on a regular infantry base.
Yeah, I think
So
that was in the
decided they were gonna
designer
have
notes
to-
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, decided they were going
Huh.
to do it this way.
Well-
It does mean that your second rank is only getting 1 attack each, even though they have 3 on the profile.
Yeah.
Because if they were monstrous infantry, they'd be getting 3 each from the second rank as well.
Which means you're never really going to see them fielded in 2 ranks.
Kind of makes sense to just take a unit 5.
And that means you're taking a unit of 5 that has a footprint of 10 elves,
Right.
right? Because it's 200 mils.
Has a footprint of 20 elves.
Well, yes, technically 20
A
elves, but a
frontage of 10
10.
elves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like 2 by 10.
Yeah, it becomes a pretty unwieldy unit, I think.
Yeah. I
You
think
could just
so.
rock a unit of 3.
Can you take them as 3?
It might be 5 up, might
It
be
might
5
be 5
plus,
up,
actually.
yeah.
I think it's
If they're
5
infantry,
plus.
yeah.
I think it's
So-
5 plus. So yeah, I don't know how useful they actually are.
Yeah.
Toughness 5 is huge. That's really good. It's better than most monstrous infantry even.
True, but and maybe now this will roll right into our rumors. And these are pretty confirmed rumors. The Glotkin book has the Chaos Legion rules in it, which basically means you can take any unit you like out of Beastmen, Warriors of Chaos, and Demons of Chaos, and mix and match to your heart's content.
Yeah, it opens a lot up.
So I'm like, okay, 40 points for a Blight King, or what is it, 55 for a Beast of Nurgle? Or is it 65?
60 points.
60 points?
60 points for a Beast of Nurgle.
Yeah.
They fulfill a different role, though. I would more compare them to... You can take a unit of Blight Kings, or basically twice as many Chaos Warriors.
Yeah.
That's how the point... Like a Chaos Warrior with a mark and a weapon upgrade is 20 points.
Yeah.
The Blight Kings cost twice that much. They've got the 3 wounds on the profile, the tough 5.
Yeah.
You're making your choice of weapon between 2 hand weapons, a hand weapon and a shield, and a great weapon at the beginning of each combat.
Yeah.
So they have the versatility there.
Yeah,
And
but they don't come
comparing
from core.
They don't
right?
come from... If they came in core, I would rock a unit of Blight Kings as the core.
But they're special, are they? Or
They
are
come special,
Yeah.
yeah. Which probably, if you're a power gamer, you're now filling up with all the chimeras and...
Or pick your
Yeah.
favorite. There's a lot of good special in all 3 of those books.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the leaked photos of the Glotkin book, again, we won't go into this in too much detail, but basically as we had for the Undead Legion, combining Vampire Celts and Tomb Kings, we've got the same thing for Chaos now.
Yep.
Are there any restrictions at all?
Not that I could see.
Again, there's a list of units you can take, but I think it's pretty comprehensive.
Looked pretty comprehensive.
From all 3 books. And there's a few small rule changes.
Yeah.
Like demons that are taken in that way lose their demonic instability rule and just get regular unstable.
Regular unstable, yeah.
So it changes some things up a bit, but essentially leaves the door open to a lot of very powerful builds.
Very powerful, which is kind of scary because it's not
It
like
is scary.
Warriors and Demons were both a pretty strong list. I mean, it's great for your Beastmen because now they have some interesting versatility.
Right.
But, I think they've taken 2 of the strongest armies and allowed them to become stronger.
Basically.
Yay. So now I think we're going to see Warriors lists with skull
Warriors
cannons.
with skull cannons. I don't know if I'm a Warriors player, I don't know what else I'm really too bothered about fielding from the Demons book. A few Beasts of Nurgle probably as my chaff.
Yeah. You might want to take a Greater Demon so you can get a portal glyph and put something nasty in the portal glyph. Right.
That's true.
There's some interesting combinations I think people will think up. And if you're a Demons player, you may want to take a Chaos Wizard so you can get access to like a Dispel Scroll or...
Yeah, that's definitely... If I'm a Demons player, I'm probably just swapping out my core for Chaos Warriors core.
Yeah.
And then keep all of my other fun, fluffy stuff from the Demons.
What, you wouldn't take Ungor?
Don't make me laugh. Beastmen do get... if you still want to build your army as predominantly your favorite one of the 3, warriors, beasts, or demons, and just add in a few extras, then beasts are definitely getting the biggest bump out of this. Because you can take your regular Beastman list, but just add the nice tidbits that you need to make it actually a viable list.
As somebody pointed out, put a Mark of Tzeentch on your Doom Bull and give him a 4-up ward. Now he's got a 1-up, 3-up. you can have a 1-up armor save and a 3-up
And a 3-up ward
ward save when you reroll ones. So he becomes
you can't reroll ones.
no.
That's only that you have to have the third eye of Zeech for that is
Yeah.
the magic item.
Oh, okay.
You're not allowed to,
Not allowed to trade.
mix and match magic items.
Even
between
still,
books.
1-up, 3-up is pretty nasty.
I think if you're really going for the power cheese, then I think the best combo is instead of putting your Doom Bulls in a unit of Minotaurs, you just put them in a unit of Trolls instead, and give them the blackened plate. Which is blackened plate is a 4-up ward against flaming attacks. It's a Beastman item for the whole unit.
Oh, gross.
So now Trolls have regen against everything that's not flaming, and then a 4-up ward save against things that are flaming. So
Yeah. There's a
that
lot
becomes-
of shenanigans.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
shenanigans. My hope is people are going to play it fluffy.
Some people will.
Take a mono god list, or take basically the same list you were running, but add in a few flavor things.
Yeah. Well, I think like from GW's perspective, this is smart marketing in that they are saying, here's this set of rules that gives you, some life in your old army and some reason to collect, maybe some of the really big or centerpiece type models from other armies.
Exactly.
And that's really what's
I think it's
really
very smart strat. They've essentially just released a couple of books now,
Yep.
and just had people scrambling to buy all the
All sorts of
models
stuff,
that they had
yeah.
made already.
Yeah.
It's all they had to do.
Yeah.
How many people have you seen online? Like, oh yeah, I just picked up Carl Franz because these new rules are, now
Yep.
I'm just going to add a demon prince to my
Next
Beastman and stuff.
Next
like that,
rumor
so.
is, the Glotkin book includes the rules for a new Karl Franz, a new Festus, the Glotkin themselves,
the Glotkin.
who are kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should go into all the rules
Let's
for all
not
the
go
new
into it.
characters. We'll do that in our Glotkin review.
Enough to say that Carl Franz is a combat beast.
Oh, he's a death machine.
Glotkin is interesting, and he's relatively good in combat, but seems like to fulfill a pretty good support role as well.
Yeah, he's like I
He's
think
like
he
a
fills.
quarterback kind of.
Well, I think he fills the same role as a Greater Demon does in the Demon Army, right? Usually the Greater Demons are both your primary caster and good combat support,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's doing the same thing.
Sure.
So, or
Should we
they
talk
are
about the
doing
model
same thing.
quickly? This
By
is
all means, talk about the model.
probably volume wise, this has to be the biggest fantasy model ever created. He's
Yeah.
not quite as tall as Nagash, I think, but
Much bigger though.
yeah, he's got the girth.
Very beefy and
Who's
nerdly.
this? Yeah,
all
very.
the pictures I've seen of him, they actually had to turn the 100 by 150 base sideways.
Yeah,
just to feel them, so he has a huge frontage.
Yeah, he does have a huge frontage,
And,
which actually works out pretty nicely for him because he has the Nurgle's rot,
Oh yeah,
which
where
means everything that touches him is taking
take a strength 1 hit
strength
with no
one,
armor
but no
saves. Yeah,
So
6s
pretty
to
good
kill
against
lots of
knights
stuff.
and Anyway, the model is pretty epic. It's so like we were saying, the brothers Glot are these three brothers. One of them is like a combat lord, one is a wizard, and one has just been mutated into this giant weird beast
Like he's
with
basically
a big tentacle arm.
a big humanoid, Nurglish humanoid
Yeah.
that's big enough for the other two to ride on the top of.
Yeah, and his back has been kind of warped into like a palanquin kind of shape
Yeah.
that the other two perch on. And it's quite a thing to behold. I still don't entirely know what I think about it.
It's certainly an intricate model.
Yeah,
It's an
intricate and very
incredible-
eye-catching, but it's hard to get your head around a little bit. It has these like eyes all over its back and just weird Nurgle stuff.
I'm not a fan of Nurgle. We went over that last time.
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
did
a fan
go
of
over that
Nurgle
last
stuff. So yes, the Glotkin probably will be out by the time you hear this podcast, and it's got those rules that we mentioned. It's got a half dozen new scenarios in it, and more fluff. It's a smaller book than Nagash, cheaper to go with it, and it's book 2 of the End Times. So
Yeah, it seems like it. It doesn't have to set up the whole end times deal like the first book did. It just kind of continues the narrative, so it can be a bit shorter.
Yep. Any other news or rumors?
News and rumors, not that I can. Well, we had. I don't know if we want to talk about this now or in the Nagash review, but we had the kind of FAQs from GW, which just basically announced that some of the things we're going to talk about in the Nagash review have become official Warhammer rules.
We'll talk about that when we get to the Art of War.
The game, this is not just a supplement campaign kind of thing. The
It's
game itself
game-changing,
has definitely changed.
Yep. Something that is public knowledge, but that everybody might not know. Games Workshop, back when they released their annual review, said that they were taking open calls for CEO, and they are going to be interviewing people for CEO next Friday, the 7th. And so I know at least one person who is I believe going to be interviewing, which is kind of cool. But hopefully we will have a new CEO announced by the end of November. I'm guessing that's the sort of time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Remains to be seen what the new blood will do with the company and the games, but it's interesting times for sure.
Yep.
So this is our second campaign corner. I've decided, anything that's fluff and campaign related.
We're just going to lump under the banner of campaign corner.
You know what? Otherwise, I've got this great sound effect that I made that I don't get to use. Anyway, Ricky has joined us. Welcome, Ricky.
Hello.
He did not bring any characters for the pit tonight because he's coming straight from work, and
Sorry,
I apologize.
everyone.
No, that's fine, dude. You're working
We all know
until
what the
9
result would
o'clock.
have been anyway. Malagor wins again.
No, I don't think Malagor was.
No,
Malagor
Malagor was
again.
going to take a little
rain check?
Yeah. I think we were going to try the Changeling versus...
Somebody combat-y.
I don't know.
Mm.
Have you got the next model on the go yet? Or
Well, I was able to get... who's the Bretonian king on the hippogriff? Or...
Leon Kerr?
I got him, so I
Cool.
could paint him up, or I might do Nagash. So
Oh.
Nagash and Glotkin I think would be fun. And I do need to do... We haven't done a VC character yet, so we could either do Nagash, who I guess technically is VC, but he's not.
He's on that Legion, man.
Yeah. I kind of feel like maybe we should do a pure VC character, maybe.
Maybe we should do Nagash
Vlad.
versus Cetra.
I was looking
love
at.
Vlad.
I really like the female Van Karstein. What's her name?
Isabella?
Isabella.
yeah.
Yeah. Super cool models.
Or we should do a doubles match because Vlad and Isabella have that cool, dual ability.
Oh, really? If they're together, they
Yeah,
get
if
to
they're
do something?
together, they do something.
Against the Sisters
do
of
something
Twilight
cool.
from the Wood Elf book?
Oh, yeah.
Or
That'd
against
be
the
crazy.
Glotkin?
Yeah,
Ooh, there you go.
That's 3-on-2. I don't know if that's fair, man.
I don't know. 2 vampires taking on Glotkin. Do you think it's possible?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
possible. I think they're probably
That's why
right,
we
actually.
invented the pit, to see if
Yeah. All right.
Woo! All right, it's all happening.
Okay.
so-
Just not today.
All right, meanwhile, back in the end times.
Mm.
So the Nagash book, it comes... I have the digital edition, gratefully donated by Ricky. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I also have a few of the... I see a few of the hardback editions here in front of the chaps around
Yeah,
the
I
table.
think 3 of us have the hardbacks out.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a double book set. How many pages are in the big books? Like 300?
Big book
190.
is like 290-ish.
Wow.
Yeah. 290 pages of all fluff and art. And before we go into the actual contents, we should just comment on the quality and aesthetic of this thing.
Yeah.
Because it's probably for my money the best book I've ever bought from GW.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
The artwork, a lot of the artwork is kind of rehashed from army books. A lot is new, but it's all just put together in a very,
yeah.
very pleasing way.
So broadly speaking, there are 5 chapters and an introduction, and each chapter really talks about a thread of the storyline with one of the main characters and a series of battles. And for each of the battles, they really go into detail on, what are the units involved in the battle.
There's
And
a dual-page spread for each of the armies involved with a little bio for the characters.
It
and
reminds me a
stuff.
lot of the was it the Blood of Sigmar that came out last
Yeah,
year?
Sigmar's
That's
Blood. They
kind
did
of
a
the same
similar
template where
thing.
they
Yeah,
show
lots
the
of little-
campaign and
Yeah.
each individual unit.
Yeah.
There's even an appendix in the back that kind of talks about every unit.
Or the historically accurate
Mhm.
units that
Yeah,
were there
each
if you want to
unit that was
field the
there.
actual
Each unit
armies.
kind of has a name and a little bit of history.
I love that.
It's
It's
very good.
inspiring for your own stuff, I think. There are I guess 4 or 5 main characters. I think 4 probably.
Who are you calling the main characters?
So the
of our
ones
story?
there's one in each of the chapters, right? So the prelude, which is called The Beginning of the End, talks about all of the races in the
Right.
Warhammer world.
It's kind of setting the scene for what each race is up to at this point, which if you have the army book for each race, it's kind of where that army book leaves off in the timeline, and then jumped forward just a little forward to the beginning of the kind of chaos invasions and stuff and how that's affecting things. So is there anything notable in particular for any of the armies that you noticed in that bit?
Well, so here's what I did. I went through and I made a note of everything that died or got destroyed
Just in this prelude bit?
across the whole
Across the whole book?
the whole book.
Seems like a fitting way to kind of summarize the book.
Yeah.
Seeing as a lot of things die and get destroyed.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with so there's this massive chaos incursion. That's really what's going on here.
It's the beginning of Archaon's kind of invasion. Yeah,
Yeah.
the vanguard is sweeping through the Empire.
Yeah, well, and it's not just the Empire. It's also Ulthuan.
Right.
It's also
All the demons are arriving in Ulthuan.
and Nagaroth.
Right.
I mean, it's basically they're coming down from the north, and if you're in the north, you're getting attacked by chaos. And it's not even
Turns out.
it's not even organized. Really, what it is like Archaon saying, "Hey, everybody, come! We're going to go fight." And everybody gets there, and Archaon's like, "Wait for it, and some people get excited and just go and basically take out cities and
Do you know why it's not organized, Aiden?
because they're chaos.
Because it's chaos.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's not led by Archaon.
Organized chaos.
Oh God, it's gonna be one of those nights. Okay, so
Archaon's just like, guys, why are you doing it that way?
So
anyway, we set the scene for each race.
for each race, the High Elves get really badly hit. They lose a couple of cities. I've noted down that Elysia and Tor Dinal are overrun by demons.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Good riddance.
Yeah,
Pointy ears.
there are at least 3 or 4 other
no
cities.
sympathy for the elves, man. I was hoping they'd just be struck off the pages of Warhammer altogether.
They still might.
No more elves.
We got to have somebody to hate,
Yeah.
right?
And also for the High Elves, there's the Everqueen's daughter has disappeared, and that's kind of, if anybody read the Sigmar's Blood campaign book, that was kind of a theme in that as well. There were characters from all over the Warhammer world just kind of disappearing.
Yep.
Aliathra, the princess of Ulthuan, was one of those, and
Yeah.
Teclis is super keen to go find her and save her.
I think is Tyrion is super
Tyrion,
green?
I mean,
yeah, the other brother.
Who turns out to be her dad.
Whoa.
What?
Wait, what?
What?
So the High Elves, I think Finnevar, he's the current king of all the High Elves, locks himself in a tower, and that causes like this big schism among the High Elves. And is it Imric? He is the leader of the Dragon Princes.
He's the
Calador.
boss of Calador, yeah.
Basically says, "Screw you guys, we're going our own way," and
You can go your own way.
Go young.
but only if you ride a dragon.
It's not
Anyway,
how the song goes in.
it is in Ulthuan.
Ulthuan.
Yeah. So yeah,
God, so nerdy.
yeah. That's kind of the High Elves. They lots of demons. Calador goes off on its own, and everybody else fights the demons.
All right. Then we've got the Empire, lots of chaos.
Empire,
Kislev's gone.
Kislev is gone, and the Empire gets mentioned quite a lot in the rest of the book, so we'll come back to that.
Oh, yeah. Beastmen, just getting excited about chaos. and
That's
all
pretty
that.
much what they do.
What's going on with the Wood Elves?
Nothing
Interesting.
Not really. The Everqueen from Ulthuan comes to visit
Oh, yeah.
and says, "Please go rescue my
And
daughter."
my daughter. Yeah.
And so Araloth trumps off and tries to go and do that. Goes into Sylvania, and we'll come into all that a little bit later.
Sweet.
Then we have
Bretonia has been in the middle of a civil war.
Yeah, so
But it turns out Arkan the Black was manipulating this whole civil war from the get-go, right?
Well, that's
He
fun.
was,
yeah,
whoever the
Malabod.
Malabord, suitably Arthurian name.
Yes.
Somebody, yeah. So he's been rebelling. Turns out that he was like a puppet of Arkan
Yep.
all along.
Yep. And so at the end, he's not only fighting with his own dudes, but he's fighting with undead. There are only 3 special characters in the Bretonnian book, if I recall correctly. Luan Luancoeur, the king, Morgiana Le Fay, the big sorceress, and the Green Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're all 3 mentioned here. So Luan Luancoeur fights against Malabod in single combat, and his broken body is cast to the ground and he disappears.
Mm-hmm.
So he's missing, presumed dead. Then Morgiana Le Fay is also one of these missing
disappeared
people, which we'll come to in a little bit. And the Green Knight comes to rescue the day and turns out to be none other than
Gilles Le Breton.
Yeah, the founder of Bretonnia in the first place. So now...
Wait, so is he like
So
somehow magically immortal or something?
yeah, well, that
Be
was the
bopping
whole thing
around
with the
forever.
Green Knight, right? He was kind of hanging around forever, and the whole
Nobody really knew what the Green Knight was. He just came and
the whole prophecy was, oh, Gilles Le Breton will return when in Bretonnia's darkest hour. And initially they thought, oh, he's come back because of Malabod and it's all terrible, and oh, now
there's
Bretonnia's great.
darker hours to come. Though.
Exactly.
Okay.
All
The
right.
Green Knight, that's a sweet model, man. We should get that in the pit.
I like the Green Knight.
Yeah, if I could,
That is a sweet
I think
model.
when I last checked the site, they didn't have it for sale, so that's why I was going to order it. Let's look and see right now, see if I can get
All right. While you're looking that up, I will tell everyone that the city of Bordelot has just vanished. So that's it's a city in Bretonnia. There's a bunch of cities that were badly damaged or badly, even whole regions of Bretonnia have been kind of knocked out by the undead. So it's really in a bad place.
Okay, so they do have him available again.
He's a nice model. He's
Yeah.
old, but he's still nice.
Yeah, he was I remember him being used as the basis for a lot of conversions too.
For sure.
Super good model.
Yeah. So one other note that I made in a slightly different color because it wasn't something that was being destroyed, but the Skaven, they unleashed the first stage. The Council of 13 unleashed the first stage of its master plan. We don't.
That can't be good.
Yeah, with a surface invasion,
very good,
a
very
new
good.
era of Skaven domination had begun. So the Skaven basically took out Tilia and Estalia.
Yeah, right. So
Well, that was bound to happen. Those areas were so disorganized and squabbly and petty anyways. Then
and
all
not
they
very
needed
important
was
to the Warhammer
and the Skaven were right
storyline
there.
in general. So
They're right on the northern border of them.
Yeah.
Skaven Blight is right
Yeah.
there. Right?
Yep.
So-
Yep. So
they've
those are
gone.
now gone. Yeah.
Yeah, that was bound to happen.
But then also one of the council,
Poor
the
dogs of
leader
war.
of the Council of 13, right? Lord Morscatar.
Yep. He gets annexed by the Horned Rat himself, who turns up and he's like, "All right, it's time to make the master plan happen." So,
So the Horned Rat's back, man.
So they
Maybe.
kill one. Wait, one of the council gets killed or eaten, or
The
The
person
head of
in
the
the-
council.
yeah,
The person in the number 1 seat on the Council of 13 gets just zapped.
yeah, don't they have to sacrifice every time they want to bring one?
I think the Horned Rat just kind of appeared. So, like, one of the big Vermin Lord types, or whatever it is. They had the Council of 13 meeting, and poof, there's this dude. There's the Horned Rat. Whoops.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So we might get a lot of things wrong in this review. It's been a while since some of us
Yeah.
read some of the earlier parts of the book.
That
but
part
we'll,
Or
about
not at all. in
We'll
one
try and
piece.
get it accurate when people die and stuff.
yeah, that part about so there's the it is in that spot. It's the most Lord Morscatar, the most exalted warlock and master of Clan Scryer, is in there, and Lord Nurglich, and blah blah blah, and
Blah, blah,
hang on,
blah.
I'm just
Get zapped, dead.
Who needs them?
it's Kritzlik. Who is Kritzlik?
Oh, yeah, Kritzalik.
Seer Lord. So the leader of the
the
Grey
Seer Lord,
Seers, yeah, dies, and boof. There's just a line that says the Horned Rat.
The
had
Horned
come."
Rat had come.
Whoa, lucky rat. Okay, so
Yeah.
And then the last
Giggity.
part, the last part is a bit about the vampire counts.
Well, the ogres are all on the move.
The ogres are all on
entire
the
ogre
move.
race
Yes, that's
is
true.
leaving their homeland and heading west,
West.
heading west towards the Empire.
They're going
so that's
west?
going to happen at some point.
Life is peaceful there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I hear.
That's a good song.
Oh, we're on fire tonight.
Yeah, how can we sum up the end times book in just a few songs?
Yeah.
Ogres go west.
Come from the land of the ice and snow.
Yeah, that's okay. That'll be Glotkin.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we talking about?
I was just going to run through. I have a paragraph here that just kind of summarizes some of the bits and bobs about all of the people whom Manfred had kidnapped. So I'm just going to read it verbatim. Morgiana Le Fay had been the acquisition that Manfred had feared most, for historically his kind had meant nothing save ruin in Bretonnia. As matters transpired, she was the first to be ensnared, delivered into Manfred's clutches by Draika of Athelwarren. The branch wraith gave no explanation for her deeds, and Manfred accepted the gift with but a token attempt to slay the giver. I have a feeling that that's because wasn't Morgana Le Fay actually an elf? Or is it Morgana, or is it the Lady of the Lake is actually an elf? One of the two is actually an elf planted there by Ariel.
Ah,
Yeah. Aliathra, the elder child of Ulthuan, was the next prey taken, whisked twice away from beneath the protection of her own people and the dwarfs of Karaz Akarak. Last to fall, and symbolically most important, was Volkmar, Grand Theogenist of Sigmar, lured to Sylvania by pride and taken in battle during that arrogant invasion.
so that's basically the entire storyline of Sigmar's blood.
Yep, in one paragraph.
Yeah.
And spoiler, all three of them are going to die real soon. So that is the beginning of the end times, and it's a really interesting read because each little bit is only like 2 to 4 pages on each race, and the pace of it is really
Yeah,
is
and
really
it sets
fast.
up a really like epic and dramatic kind of picture.
Yep, for sure.
Very apocalyptic for everybody, really.
Yeah. All right, so chapter 1, An Accursed Alliance. So chapter 1 is primarily about Manfred.
And Arkan.
Manfred and Arkan. Yeah.
Arkan.
The Accursed Alliance is Manfred and Arkan.
So, brief history about these guys. I think we talked a bit about some of the undead history in one of our other episodes and got it so very wrong. And I think a couple of people called us on it online. I'm like,
Really?
yeah. And then I read through it and I'm like, whoa, this is not what I thought had happened at all.
Huh.
Anyway, so Manfred, one of the von Karstein crew from Sylvania, he killed Vlad von Karstein.
Or facilitated his death.
Was behind his
He
death.
hid his ring.
That's right. And he has become the dominant power of Sylvania and has created like this eternal blackness over Sylvania.
Yeah, he seceded Sylvania from the Empire, and
Empire.
just built this wall around it that none can pass.
None shall pass. And meanwhile, Arkan the Black is trying to bring Nagash back. That's basically Arkan, despite being really cool and really powerful, is complete fanboy of Nagash the whole way through this. He's like, never says a bad word about him, does his master's bidding entirely.
He just hears his voice in his head
That's right.
constantly. He's got Nagash whispering to him,
Yeah.
whispering sweet nothings.
Sweet, sweet nothing.
So the interesting thing here is like, so Arkan knows that there's a whole bunch of things that need to be collected in order to perform this ritual to bring Nagash back.
Yep.
It turns out that Manfred has already been gathering a lot of those things for his own ends, for this kind of spell that would seal off Sylvania, and just happens to be in possession of a lot of the books of Nagash and other, these kind of royal bloodline hostages he's taken. All stuff that also needs to be gathered to bring Nagash back. So Arkan obviously has a strong motivation for forging an alliance with
Yep, for sure.
with Manfred. But what's Manfred got to gain from this whole thing?
He is basically plotting.
Yeah,
So
he's scheming.
he's like, okay, I'll help you, and at the last moment, I'm going to betray you and take all the power for myself.
And what he's actually thinking this early in the game is that he can kind of help perform this ritual to bring Nagash back, and then manipulate it to like bend Nagash to his will.
Yeah.
This fool.
Yeah.
But
he
this
he
is
gets
his
a bit of a
plan.
rude
He
awakening
does
when
later.
Nagash
We'll get
comes
to
back.
that.
Yeah.
But basically, his plan is
Yeah.
he's a smart guy. This guy.
Yeah.
He's decided he's just going to help bring back Nagash, but bend Nagash to his own will.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll
So
see how that goes.
So one of these items that they're after is in a holy shrine in Bretonia, and so they kind of march through Bretonia to try and get this. I think it's the armor.
Yeah, so the things they need, I guess they need the Morricane, his armor, and
Alakash,
Alakash.
his staff, and
They also need to destroy the Fellblade.
the Fellblade. The Fellblade had destroyed him, and so had kind of consumed part of him. So they needed to get.
So they
the
got to get the Fellblade. So these are all things that over the next chapter or two we're gonna gather.
Yep, it's kind of like a plot for a role playing game.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But it's kind of clever, it allows them to bring in a lot of the Warhammer armies
for sure
into the storyline, whereas it could just be a story of undead, bring Nagash back, fight Empire and Chaos, but this allows them to really tie in a lot of the other armies, which is fun for the fans of those armies.
Yeah, I think the only things that don't make much of an appearance in here, Lizardmen, ogres.
Yeah, everyone who lives kind of far
dark,
away.
Dark elves.
The elves in general. Well, the high elves maybe.
A little.
an
The wood
appearance,
elves a little, but not much.
Yeah.
So
it's really the kind of old world armies
the old world.
that are...
So they plow through Bretonia. I made a little note here that Carcassonne and Brionne are already reduced to desolation by rebellion and plague. And Quenelles is pretty much gone as well, and the Duke gets killed as part of this campaign. So that's kind of what goes on in that chapter. It's that's
the Battle of La Maison Tal.
Yes,
right?
La Maison Tal
is where they are getting Alakanash.
It's Alakanash, yeah. It's not the
getting
armor, it's the
Alakanash
staff.
there.
Yeah.
Does anybody of note die in this? Well, something of note that happens here is Heinrich. So Arkan is leading this attack on La Maison Tal, and he has Heinrich Kemmler and Krell with him.
Yep.
So any people who follow the Vampire Count's fluff will know that Krell is kind of somewhat bound to Heinrich Kemmler, right?
No one really knows who's bound to who.
Who's
but
bound
the two
to
are
who,
always together.
Yeah, they're kind of bound somehow. So they're with Arkan in this fight, but Heinrich Kemmler, has he formed some kind of alliance with Chaos on the sly? Or he just has his own schemes going on?
I think it reveals at the end of the battle that Heinrich was planning on betraying Arkan.
That's right.
All along, and they get into a battle.
Yeah, he basically Arkan toasts Heinrich Kemmler.
Arkan kicks his ass.
Yeah, and they get Alakanash, the staff from. So it's a really cool battle. It's reproduced in the scenarios later. Effectively, the Bretonian the Bretonian army has to defend this holy site, while the undead are trying to, get into the castle to get the staff. What I will. Do we want to cover the scenarios now, or do you want to do that a little bit towards the end?
I haven't actually read the scenarios,
Okay.
so if they fit in nicely with the fluff, then just
yeah.
go for it.
I think this is interesting because the Bretonians is still one book that hasn't been reprinted yet or redone, and they have some special rules for the scenario that are about the knights that I thought were interesting and may be a sign of things to come. So one is that Knights of the Realm and Knights Errant may include. Units may include any number of models, which is, old books had a limit on how many models you could have in them. And they can form lances that are up to 4 models wide. So you could have a 3 wide lance, or you could have a 4 wide lance.
Wait, say this again. What?
This is a scenario special rule for this Bretonian thing. And one of the special rules is you can have a lance that's 4 models wide.
You probably wouldn't want to, though. The Bretonians love having that little narrow frontage.
Yeah.
Just fill it up with characters and then...
But yeah, you could have 4 characters up front.
Yeah, but it's not bad for Knights Errant, though, I don't think. Because they're a little stronger, right? They're strength 4 on the chart. So they get strength 6. it's not terrible to have that wider frontage. You get more supporting attacks. So yeah. Anyway, and then this Thundering Charge special rule, which I thought was interesting. If the Knights of the Realm or the Knights Errant unit has more than 15 models in it, and they charge that turn, and they're in lance formation, they have the Stomp special rule.
Oh.
That's cool.
Yeah, so there's a reason to have 4 wide, right? That's an extra stomp attack.
Extra stomp.
Yeah, and I
It'd be
imagine
strength 3 though.
you'd why?
Because you're using the horse's strength now.
It doesn't say that. It just says that you have the Stomp special rule. You'd be strength. Well, you would be strength 3 for the Knights of the Realm, right? That's their base strength, isn't it? The Knights Errant are strength 4.
I would imagine you'd use the horse's strength.
You use
right?
the mount's strength when you
If you
do
have a
stomps.
monstrous cavalry, you use the monster, the beasts.
But strength 3
Strength.
stomp. It's still horse hammer.
Yeah.
Horses normally do more damage than the knights anyway, so might as
True.
well just roll more
Yeah.
dice with them.
So I thought that was interesting. I mean,
It
it's
is cool,
not
though.
it's not game changing, but it's like I'm sure that was inspired by something, and maybe it was inspired by rules of things to come. Okay, so that was so that chapter is divided into 3 parts. That was the first part.
Unsurprisingly, the undead win that battle.
Yes.
Get the staff.
Yes,
There's a lot of that in this book.
Yeah,
The undead winning all the battles.
yeah, for sure. Do they actually lose any battles in here? They do a few, actually. We'll come to those.
Well, the ones where undead are fighting undead.
Somebody has to
Somebody
lose,
loses.
but at the same time, the undead always win those ones too.
Anyway, we've got the staff. What are we
Oh,
going to get
good point.
next?
I'm not sure.
I think we're off to get the fell blade from the Skaven.
Well, there was the next scenario in the book is the fall of the Battle of Mordkinlair. isn't it?
Yeah, that's
So it would be the Skaven.
going to get the fell blade.
Yeah. So I like this as a kind of cool. Obviously I've been playing Skaven a lot lately, so that was part of it.
So
But-
timeline-wise, this happens at kind of the same time as Maisontal. They've just split the forces, and Manfred has come to do this while Arken's
Yep.
doing the Bretonia thing.
Yep. So they go underground into this Skaven lair, and basically beat the duff out of the Skavens and take the Fellblade.
Are there any kind of fine hours for the Skaven in this story?
I don't think so.
There's something where, well, they kill a bunch of skeletons. They like seal off the lair with this chasm kind of thing. But then Manfred just comes along and raises some massive corpse bridge
Yeah.
and just strolls across it.
And beyond that, he just comes along and doesn't he reanimate their gates or something? Their gates were made out of a dragon.
Made out of a dragon, yeah. And
Yeah.
He turns it into
He turns it into a zombie dragon,
I remember that, yeah.
and
God.
out it comes and just wrecks runs rampant among the Skaven.
That was a very pitched battle. I remember that actually being one of my favorite stories in the scenario, just because it was so
Yeah.
so brutal for the Skaven to lose for once against another swarm.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, for sure. So
So something that comes across in this early chapter is just how powerful these undead characters are.
yeah, for sure.
Arken and Manfred, yeah, they're really like
from
one-man armies, fluff-wise.
from a narrative perspective, and I think, the way they describe it is, oh look, there's bones. Okay, I've got an army.
Yeah.
Which it isn't necessarily how they play out on the battlefield, but I guess if you think about, we only play through 6 turns of a combat, which is almost like a skirmish. You think about a battle, they're going to have a chance to raise a lot of death.
And Arken can raise a pretty hefty army with Law of Undeath.
Oh yeah, with the
Because
new
he's
stuff.
kind of mini Nagash, right?
Yeah, Nagash mini me.
Yeah, he is.
Yep. All right, so that was the second part. That's the Slaughter in the Dark, was getting the Fellblade, and then the third part is, I think, getting the armor. And this is where they go into the Empire.
To
So
Heldenheim.
Heldenheim, yep, exactly. And I think it's Manfred and Arkan. They both join up and get into Heldenheim, get this armor, and then book it back.
And
to
we're glossing
Sylvania.
over a lot of it, but there really is some nice like character development about the relationship between Arkan and Manfred. They obviously completely distrust each other, are
Yeah.
trying to think out like, what's this guy's scheme that he's going to try and pull off? What am I going to do to counter it? Just like working these crazy webs of scheming against each other.
Well, there's that, but then there's this wonderful paragraph where they're just describing how Arkan can read Manfred's mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's obvious that the vampire didn't know that that his thoughts were completely open to Arkan. So Manfred's busy plotting, and Arkan's kind of going, face palm.
He's like, he's going to try what? All right.
Yeah, exactly. So that is chapter 1. I want to kind of push through quite quickly. So
Yeah.
Chapter 2 is called The Ritual. So unsurprisingly, this is all about Nagash actually getting raised.
Yeah, there's one page in this chapter that just got me pretty excited.
Oh, yeah?
Let's just say. The page where Nagash actually rises. It's like there's a double page spread.
Yeah,
That's
talks all about him coming back.
So the one thing to note actually is that the book, like most of the fluff is written in kind of the normal Warhammer fluff way, like you see in the main rule book, which is kind of, it's not necessarily like a novel, it's more like a history text almost.
Yep.
But then there's little like side boxes in the book that are told from a particular person's perspective or written in much more of a kind of novel kind of way.
Yep.
Giving you insights into a particular person's thoughts. So they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I did like that myself. So very cool parts in this chapter. So the High Elves have basically come to try and they've come just like 3 or 4 of them with a small contingent. The Wood Elves have come to try and...
But it's Eltharion leading it?
Eltharion the Grim.
Eltharion
Yeah.
the Grim,
Yeah, who is a special character in the High Elf book on a griffin.
On a griffin, yeah.
And the Wood Elves have tried to get there as well at the behest of the Everqueen. They get waylaid.
This is all into Sylvania, right? They're
Into
all heading
Sylvania,
into
yeah.
Sylvania. And the dwarfs come.
And the
too,
dwarfs
right?
come and they get waylaid.
They get waylaid by Arkan's
into Beastmen.
Yeah.
They kind of pull them off into the Beastmen. And so you got like these 5 armies converging, and the only ones that actually get there are the High Elves.
Right.
And so there's this big battle between the High Elves and the Undead trying to keep the High Elves away from rescuing Aliathra.
All they're really trying to do is just keep the High Elves at bay until they raise Nagash, and then it's
which they successfully do.
They do.
And they also kill Eltharion. Arkan basically just, nukes him.
So they sacrifice Aliathra and Volkmar and whoever else.
And Morgiana Le
that's
Fay.
part of the
And
ritual for
boom, back
raising.
comes Nagash.
Boom.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then, so this is like my favorite part. So up until this, you've heard, like I said before, Manfred is scheming that Nagash is going to wake up.
Were you going to say Sigvald?
Sigvald.
Sigvald, yeah.
I got Sigvald on the mind. So he's been scheming that Nagash is going to wake
I've been
up and he's
thinking
going
about you
to
too, Tom.
interject
Yeah.
into this ritual and somehow bend Nagash to his will. And then the ritual happens and Nagash wakes up and Manfred perceives the will of Nagash and just realizes he has absolutely no chance.
He basically
of
craps
doing it.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Nagash just looks at him and says, "Do you serve me?" And Nagash is like, "Yes."
All right.
He just falls
Manfred,
to his knees.
yes. Yep, of course.
Yeah.
Um,
I serve you, master.
yeah. So Nagash comes back at the end of chapter 2.
In all of his big-hatted glory.
Yeah. Wow. He really does have a big hat. In fact, they all have big hats.
Do they?
Yeah. If you look at all the Mortarks, the exception of Manfred,
Yeah, Manfred just has a bald scalp.
Neferata has a big hat and a big
true.
chin. Arkan has a big hat. Nagash has the biggest hat because, he's the biggest dude.
Mm-hmm. They're really channeling Chaos Dwarfs here.
They've got
Chaos Dwarfs have got serious hat envy of all this new undead stuff.
Oh, one other thing that's interesting. So when Nagash comes back, what he tries to do is he tries to pull the entire wind of Shyish into himself, which is the death magic.
wind.
And because Eliathra...
So he plucks it from the vortex in Ulthuan,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
tries to just bind it to his
himself.
body.
Yeah, to become a god.
Yeah.
And
Does
Get
that
with
work?
the game,
it
Ricky.
doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Huh.
And the reason is because Eliathra is not pure royalty. She's not pure...
It's supposed to all be royal bloodline. Yeah.
royal bloodline,
And
which is descended from a god. Right?
Yeah, the Everchild is supposed to be the child of the Phoenix King
And
and,
the
the
Ever
Ever
Queen.
Queen, but the Ever Queen's been shacking up with old
Tyrion.
Tyrion
Yeah.
on the
Eh.
sly. Yeah. So she's only half royal blood, so it kind
Yep.
of ruins the
Half royal blood, half wild oats.
kind of exactly ruins the ritual a little bit. So Nagash doesn't have his full power,
No.
and he just can't deal with the whole wind of Shyish.
Yeah, but what ends up happening is he tries to suck it in himself. He can't, but whatever he does, he messes with the whole Death Wind. It destroys the Amethyst College in the Empire. Right?
That whole thing just shatters.
Yeah, the whole college just crumbles to dust. It says.
Really?
Every
Um,
every death wizard just goes mad in
Yeah.
the Empire.
Yeah,
Because he's
Whoa,
just like taken that whole wind of magic, and he couldn't bind it to his body, so he actually binds it into Sylvania,
yeah.
into the land of Sylvania.
And
So that's what spreads this whole
Undeath,
wave of death
yeah.
magic through the world that allows everyone to use the law of undeath.
And so what happens from there is the dead, literally from the binding of the wind into the land, they just get up and start walking around there. So you know, normally you have to have a necromancer or a vampire or somebody, you know, raise them and bind them. In this case, they just raise all on their own, and nobody's binding them, so they just kind of wander around. And so this is a backdrop for the rest of the battles in the rest
There's
of the
dead
book.
people walking around.
There's dead
everywhere.
people walking around, and so Manfred's like, "All right, I'm going to take those 100 guys and those 80 guys, and you know, there we go. Phew, there, I got 6 more legions." And this happens a whole bunch, and everybody, all the other wizards, start to be able to perceive this kind of new death wind as a result, and this is why in the rules, any wizard can now cast from this lore of undeath.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That explains it.
It explains it all.
All right. So that was chapter 2.
Oh yeah, we burned through that.
Yep.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3. Chapter
Death
3 is my
of the
favorite
World's
one.
Edge.
This is the Neferata chapter. So is she a new character? I've not seen her
No,
before.
she's been, at least in the fluff.
She's been mentioned
around.
a bit, but I mean,
Oh,
she was
yeah.
never a character in, like, you couldn't put her on the battlefield.
No,
before.
but
Yeah.
she's been pretty heavily mentioned in like the Tomb King's fluff in particular.
Right.
as-
And so she's the first vampire, right?
yeah,
And the queen of fallen Lamia, which is, you know, a city in Nehekara.
Neha.
So she lives way up in the World's Edge Mountains, and
She's not particularly welcome in Lamia anymore.
I don't think anyone likes
She
her
has
very
major
much.
beef with Khalida.
Yes, Khalida.
One of them killed the other, right? Or did they both kill each other at
I
some
think
point?
Neferata killed Khalida, but didn't
She-
fully bind her or something like that.
and she killed a whole bunch of people's families and stuff, and made some of them into vampires. And yeah, the Tomb Kings in general don't like vampires.
No, turns
Yeah,
out.
so
Or Nagash very much.
No.
Of course.
So Neferata, she doesn't seem to get on well with anyone. Like, she's fairly unaligned in this whole thing. Arcan is about the only one that, well, Arcan's kind of special across the board.
And her whole deal is she's just like the biggest schemer.
Yep.
Out of all the great scheming vampires, she is probably the biggest schemer.
Yep.
And she realizes that, you know, chaos is coming. Nagash is back. She has history with Nagash. She's not necessarily like his best buddy or anything, but she knows she's going to have to pick a side.
Mm-hmm.
And she throws down with Nagash
Yep.
because she has faith that he's going to be able to confront the gods of chaos.
Yeah. So what she decides to do is, at some point in the distant past, she discovered this big dwarven hold that was all preserved with a whole bunch of magic items in it. It was all hidden behind runes, and she didn't know how to get past them. And she's just like, I'm gonna hide this, and come back to it later. And
She knows that she perceives
super
there's something
powerful.
incredibly powerful in there.
Yeah.
And she also, because she's such a schemer and smart and whatever, she knows that Nagash's ritual is not going to work out as intended because the Everchild is not.
Yeah. She already
100%.
knows that.
So
Yeah.
she knows he's going to need some extra source of power, and she also knows that to get into his good books, she's going to need to turn up with some kind of gift.
Yep.
So this is her plan.
This is her
that
gift.
She's going to allow
Interesting.
Nagash to consume this, whatever this dwarven
Thing.
power turns out to be.
Yep. So she sets off from her Silver Pinnacle in the World's Edge Mountains, toodles along with a whole pile of undead. Army gets bigger and bigger as she goes.
She has a lot of vamps with her.
A lot of
her
vampires,
handmaidens.
a lot of girly vampires,
Yeah.
and
Giggity.
yeah.
Hot.
She actually, this is the first we see the Undead Legion because she has her Tomb Guard, which are from Nagash.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Army and God.
in the fluff scenarios at the back, this is the first time that the Undead Legion is mentioned. So there's two battles in this particular chapter, and the first one is where she's trying to get through this chasm, and there's a night goblin war boss has spotted them coming. Yeah. And he gets together a whole pile of clans. They're on their way to join
They're on the way to
Skarsnik.
join Skarsnik,
Yeah.
to join Skarsnik's
That's
Warg,
right.
which
Yeah.
is a
That's right,
thing.
they are.
Skarsnik's Warg is kicking off.
Yep. So Grulsik the Great is the war boss here, and
So this was the one piece of the fluff that I did read.
Yeah.
So, of course,
yeah,
of
there's
course.
not goblins in it. I gotta
Yeah.
read that. And this is a cool battle.
It is a very cool battle
And-
because Neferata definitely underestimates the goblins. She's like, goblins.
She doesn't even see, well. One of the points they make is she commands from the Silver Pinnacle. She's not on the battlefield.
Right.
And here she is in a battle scenario. She doesn't see the potential for ambush.
Yeah, right.
So goes down a chasm where there's caves on either side, and she's like,
Do night goblins like to ambush from caves, Ricky?
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
That's kind of our thing.
so this is what happens, and she basically pushes through. The goblins all attack. There's a whole bunch of squigs everywhere, and
Squigs everywhere.
a chimera comes out of nowhere, and Krell is there, and Krell basically turns up at the last minute and saves her butt. So Krell, I think, was sent by was he sent by Arkan at this point? I think he was. Or,
Yeah, just
Yeah.
as kind of or maybe by Nagash himself.
Yeah.
Because he's mainly Nagash's puppet.
Yeah, to just go and rein that bitch in.
Yeah,
a little bit was
seriously.
kind of how it was.
Yeah, just see what the deal is. See
Yeah.
if she's going to be on our side.
Yeah. So he saves her butt, and the goblins all scatter, and off they tromp to this dwarven place. Meanwhile, at the dwarven place, it turns out this spot is called the Gates of Valaya, because inside and behind there is actually the remains of the ancestor goddess Valaya.
Yeah, her
Spirit.
soul,
Yeah,
kind of, essentially.
yeah, exactly. And Thoric Ironbrow is there, right? So Thoric Ironbrow is a special character in the dwarf book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Master Runesmith or whatever.
Yeah, the
Anvil of Doom guy.
The Lord Runesmith.
Yep. And the fluff in this, I think, was really cool. He's there. He's trying to decipher the runes.
So he is independently found this spot as well, and
Yep.
is trying to. He has some kind of inkling that it's something to do with the ancestor gods, and something
Yep.
could be a great ally to the dwarfs in this time of need.
Yeah. And he also spots that there's vampire runes on top of the dwarf runes trying to hide things. And so he sends off to the local king and says, I found something, send reinforcements. And the good thing he does, because shortly afterwards he's attacked by Krell and Neferata.
Yeah.
And so they get attacked. So the undead come in while the dwarfs are trying to get through the gates. And meanwhile, the dwarven reinforcements are coming, And then the Night Goblins have all regrouped under Grolsik again, and they attack as
It's
well.
a crazy battle. So through this whole thing, you have Thoric in the middle on his anvil, trying to crack these runes, surrounded by some like iron breakers and his
Yep.
anvil guard, like being surrounded by undead.
Yep.
You've got the dwarf reinformants kind of smashing in.
And they've got
from another
gyrocopters
side
and
into all
hammers
those
and
undead,
everything.
and then the
yeah.
goblins just. And if it hadn't been for the goblins, it kind of makes out that this would go the dwarfs' way almost, because they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, very hard to take them down.
Yeah, they're being very hardy, and the goblins just screw them over.
Yeah, for sure.
Stupid goblins.
Stupid goblins, yeah. Well, Valaya's blessing was on them, right? Isn't that what they said?
I have
On the dwarfs,
I
yeah,
have
they're all
Goblin
kind of
Guild
glowing.
now.
Goblin guild.
It's because your dwarf army's coming on so nicely. So in the scenario for this one that you fight out on the back, it's actually split into two battles.
Yeah, it looks like it is.
And the first one is you're defending the gates against the undead attack, so it's dwarf versus undead. And then the next one it's a triumph and treachery game, which I thought was kind of cool.
That's cool, yeah.
You've got night goblins, you've got undead, and you've got dwarves. So you guys could actually play that battle because you've got those three armies,
Oh, yeah.
pretty much. And TNT. Rhubarb. Yeah. So,
Good stuff. Anyway,
does Thoric die?
Thoric dies.
Yeah, that's what I
Cazador
thought.
dies.
I don't
Cazador.
even want to
Valea
go on anymore.
gets consumed.
Valea is consumed. Does that mean there's no Master Rune of Valea anymore? Probably not. Yeah.
Yes, so I guess after this battle happens, then Neferat, you don't hear about it, but Neferata must lead Nagash here, and then he consumes Valea.
Yeah, it's briefly mentioned.
That's a pretty big blow to the dwarfs. You kill two of their main characters and one of their gods.
And you eat a god.
Just eating a god.
Nom nom. Tasty.
I have
god.
my theories about how the dwarfs are going to get their revenge before this is done.
Oh yeah. Go on then.
I think Grungni has got to come back, right? If Valea is going to be a thing and his essence is there,
Yeah.
then Grungni has got to be around somewhere as well, and he's
Yeah.
going to be able to come back or inhabit somebody new.
So far, the dwarves are the only army that has not benefited from the end times because they have no casters
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't been put into a legion. So they can't play Lore of Undeath like everybody else. And because there's no legion for them to join with other casters, they're kind of
screwed.
They're kind of screwed right now. Everybody else gets new toys to play with.
You never know. They might get
So-
lumped into the same book as the
Yeah.
Chaos Dwarfs. Maybe that'll all be nicely realigned
Chaos
again.
Dwarfs will never get mentioned again by GW, I have a feeling.
You know what? They're still in the Warriors of Chaos book.
Yeah, it's
Little
true.
handlers for the
Handlers for the
Hell Cannon.
Hell Cannons.
All right. So chapter 3, I really enjoyed the story of that. I don't know if it was written by somebody different or just the character was
I think the
interesting.
majority of this book has smells of Phil Kelly to me.
Oh, yeah?
I think he wrote most of it.
Huh.
I'd be
Yeah.
surprised if he didn't.
I can't tell them apart, really. But it was very engaging. I loved the story. I loved the battles.
It's probably the best described battle
Yeah.
in the book.
Oh, and another note we should mention is, after each battle, then, they describe the forces beforehand with new artwork. And then after each battle, they put photos of the armies, actually fighting the battles. So my favorite part about reading this whole book was whenever they're fighting the Night Goblins, and I'm looking at the pictures of the Night Goblin armies, and I'm going, Ricky's Night Goblins look better than the Heavy Metal ones.
Of course.
Shucks.
No, they. And I'm not just saying that; they really do. Like the Heavy Metal ones are kind of flat.
Yeah.
And
the bases don't look that suitable for Night Goblins, really.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, turf.
yeah,
Doesn't really look fitting.
yeah. So I'm like, oh, they should have just asked to borrow Ricky's for all these photos. That
Flown
would've
them
been really
over to
cool.
Nottingham, especially to get the photo shoot done.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to chapter 4.
Dark Tides.
Dark Tides. This is basically to sum it up really quickly, the Chaos incursion starts to come down from the north into the Empire. The Empire fights back, and
Are you sure it doesn't strike back, Aiden?
I don't know. The Empire Strikes Back TM, and yeah, missed opportunity. And the Vlad, who's the main undead character in this one, comes to the aid of the Empire to stop the Chaos incursion.
He's been sent by Nagash basically. So
Yep.
Nagash is Vlad is one of the vampires who's supposed to have been finally dead for good, right? That's the
Yeah.
fluff.
There is
lost
no
the
finally
Von
dead for
Carsten
good when
ring
it comes to
and
the
is supposed
undead.
to be finally dead.
Yeah.
But Nagash just brings him back because he's Nagash and he can do whatever.
He just like snaps his fingers.
So he brings Vlad back and sends Vlad to try and stall the chaos incursion.
Yep. So
Why does he want to stop it? Like, why does he
Because
care?
Nagash is not down with chaos, man. He
Not
wants
at all.
a sterile, orderly world of the undead.
Yep. Everything
And
needs to be
chaos
dead.
is just entirely against his.
So he must
worldview.
really hate Nurgle most of all.
He hates Nurgle most
Yeah.
of all.
And
Who's all about creating more and
creating
more life.
new
The-
life.
the whole end times as it's being pitched in this book is chaos versus undead.
Mhm.
That's the
With
big.
the Empire stuck in the middle.
The Empire, well, everybody else is stuck in the middle, really. But that's the big thing.
Okay.
And I have a feeling that, you know, that's going to be everybody's focus until then the Skaven get involved.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the lizard men are probably going to be because it's mentioned right at the very start. They start this huge exodus out of Lustria. It says like the great plan of the old ones has failed. So I'm wondering, like the last book of the end times is, I don't know what the heck's going to happen.
We don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
but
Anyway,
it's going to be sweet.
It's going to be interesting.
But Nagash's whole plan was that he needs to get back before the world is just swamped by Empire.
By chaos.
And he feels like he needs to get the power to not just crush the Chaos invasion, but actually confront the gods of Chaos themselves so that he can put a stop to it for good.
Yeah, he basically wants to become a god and take down Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, lineage.
And just replace them all with death.
Nagash. It's Nagash. Okay, so
Okay.
Why not? You know? Just kill the gods.
this chapter is also amazing. Lot happens in
Oh,
it.
yeah.
So much happens. So the first thing is, they talk about how Balthazar Gelt, what is he called? The Supreme Patriarch of the Colleges of Magic. He put together this really cool barrier around Sylvania, basically keeping everybody in Sylvania inside. And then the next thing that he did was, okay, these crazy guys are coming from the north. Kislev is gone. The Northmen are coming. Let's put up this enormous wall that literally, it says it stretches into the clouds. It's completely flat, so they can't actually get over it. They couldn't possibly climb it. And they can't
And this is like the
break
type
it.
of magic that, even for Balthazar Gelt has been entirely impossible, but because the world is just flooding with magic now, he feels like he has the power to do this gargantuan spell.
So he does this, and all along it's basically every few miles there's this like ritual circle with
Light
wizards and priests. The what are they called? The warrior priest
Yeah.
types.
The Sigmarites.
The Sigmar, cult of Sigmar guys.
So it's supposed to be built from a combination of magic and faith.
Yeah, which has never been possible before. And so the whole
Interesting.
idea is that this can keep the demons out because it's light magic and holy magic all at the same time. So this is called the Auric Bastion, and it's this enormous wall all along the border, the Kislev border, effectively.
How'd that work out for him?
Pretty good for a while.
Good for a
For a
while.
minute.
It just required too many people to keep it up.
Well, it did, and so how do we cut? I'm going to cut the long story short. Balthazar Gelt basically kind of comes under the influence of Vlad and ends up turning and becoming a necromancer. And it's entirely,
Well, that's not good.
by degrees.
It's by degrees, and it's all very much he's convincing himself it's for the right reasons. Like conventional magic just wasn't being enough to
The
send back
Emperor's
these
in
tides.
trouble. Like, I
The Empire's
gotta.
in trouble. There's all these dead stuff lying around.
Yeah.
And
He's like,
Vlad
I
just,
could use that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And above and beyond that, the changeling it comes in and basically wreaks havoc up
The
and down.
changeling's just been
Yeah.
confusing everybody.
Yeah, yeah. So
I guess they didn't hear that he got shot in the face by Malagor.
Shut your dirty mouth.
yeah, I guess not. So
He changed at the very last second.
He is Malagor.
He turned into a fly and flew away.
pretty sure that every special character in the Empire book gets mentioned in this chapter.
There's a lot.
Kurt Helborg's in there.
Mm-hmm.
The Emperor's in there.
Yeah, because they're all just fighting along the
Volton
front.
is in
Volton is an old face who's
Yeah.
been rehashed for this book in a slightly different role, kind of.
there. Yep. And who else is in? Like, I recognized so many names, and I'm not even sure how many of them are still special characters in the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot. And so this tells the story of, how the Empire keeps the demons and warriors at bay. There's a big split in the wall at one point, and the Nurgle army comes through, and it literally the wall starts to close back up again because the ritual circle gets powered by Balthazar's magic, and the greater demon gets stuck inside and
Pops like a...
yeah. But then later on, after Gelt falls and turns to the dark side, and becomes a necromancer, all of the priests who were powering the wall say, "Oh, we can't possibly keep powering this. This was built by this, traitorous scum."
Yeah. So the Empire are kind
it's
of
all
dumb.
tainted, yeah.
Like if they kept the wall and just let Balthazar be a necromancer, it would be sweet, and the Empire would have been saved. But they were all like, "This is against our faith." Like kill the witch kind of thing. They love
Yep.
killing the witch in the Empire.
Exactly. And so the Arc Bastion collapses, and the
Nurglings come
and
through.
demons and the warriors were all able to.
So even at
conquer
this
them.
stage, even before the Glotkin book, it's the majority of the Chaos Army seems to be Nurgle, because Nurgle seem, like you were saying, Nurgle and Death are kind of opposites. So Nurgle is the one who's taking the most affront to the kind of rise of Death and Nagash.
Yeah, and I think
Which is funny that Nurgle can cast death.
Yeah, exactly. It is a bit weird.
Yeah.
Some of the fluff is mixed up, I
Yeah.
think.
well,
Like,
also though, I think a lot of the corn stuff is mentioned is coming down into Nagaroth, and
that's true.
on that side
Corn
of
is
the world, like
fighting
Valia,
Nagaroth, yeah.
is it Valia?
Valkia.
Valkia is leading that charge down there, and
Valkia
Cool.
the Bloody.
yeah, and then
It's her
Zinch sends the changeling in to just basically go nuts in behind Empire borders.
Yeah.
Carl Franz,
Let's go play.
Carl Franz almost dies.
Yeah.
He falls from the sky.
So one of Vlad's kind of buddies, Wallach Harkon,
Yep.
who's the Lord of the Blood Knights, I guess.
Yep.
He gets
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 corrupted
tempted by
chaos.
corn,
Yep.
and turns to chaos. Yeah, and he fights Carl Franz in some kind of aerial duel because he's on a zombie dragon and Carl Franz is on
Deathclaw.
Deathclaw, and it just says Carl Franz is outmatched. He's
Yep.
a good fighter and a great emperor, but he's just not a match yet
For a chaos
for
vampire.
a chaos vampire on a dragon. So he gets smote down from the air and crashes, and
Yep.
you don't know what's happened to him for a little while.
And then later it says he's like, this man comes and rescues the griffin, and off they go. And so he's still there.
And then there's this cool bit where Wallach Harkin is like, all right, now I killed Carl Franz, and I'm just going to go and kill Vlad. And he
Yeah.
starts fighting with Vlad. And Vlad's like, oh crap, this guy's a better fighter than me, but I'm freaking awesome. So he just gets into the mind of the zombie dragon and causes the zombie dragon to eat
Yeah.
his mount.
Dominates the zombie
Vlad
dragon.
isn't as good a fighter, but he just has the strongest will.
Yeah.
He can control anybody.
Whoa.
That was pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
And backdrop of all of this is the Volton character. He starts off as kind of like this smith, from the backwaters, and people see him as kind of blessed by Sigmar, and he's becoming more and more popular, and glowing with a holy light kind of thing. So he's kind of perceived as a herald of Sigmar.
They give him Galmaraz
Yep, they give him Galmaraz, and
and just say, go nuts.
yeah, and he does.
He kills a greater demon, right?
Yeah, Yeah, and so basically you can summarize this chapter as they defend, then the wall falls and they're screwed. Pretty much.
Carl Franz is suspected dead
Yeah,
by the end of the chapter, and
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a great big gash in this wall, and everything's just pouring through.
so they just kind of fall back, right?
Yep,
Fall
exactly.
back into the Empire.
The funniest picture, I've got it right here in front of me, is actually Vultan fighting off the Great Unclean One. And you see how bad the Great Unclean One model still looks like.
You can do
Because
with the professional paint job.
Even,
and,
yeah, he's so
yeah.
professional
small.
photography.
And,
They just can't make it good.
you know, he's only head and shoulders bigger than a plague drone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you look at, there's a Terrorgeist in the background. You're like, really? The Terrorgeist looks like it could eat the Great Unclean One.
In one bite.
In one bite, yeah. Terrorgeists get mentioned quite a bit, actually. And in fact, they go the whole gamut of everything in the Undead book. All the
basically.
Undead books get mentioned at some point.
So I don't know if it's at this point, but there's the final fall from grace of Balthazar Gelt. Is where he kind of suspects that there's been some imposter, like we said, the Changeling has very much infiltrated the Empire.
Yeah.
And
He thinks it's Vultan.
he thinks it's Balthazar Gelt thinks it's Vultan,
Yeah.
and there's some great ceremony where they're like, I think bestowing Galmaraz on him or raising him to some new
Luther Huss is there.
post.
Yeah.
And Balthazar Gelt decides he needs to kill Vultan and raises this huge undead army in the middle of an Empire city while there's this like ceremony going on to try and kill Vultan.
And,
Whoa.
everybody's like, whoa, what? You just did what now?
Yeah, so they like Vultan and those dudes kill that army, and then it turns out the Changeling was somebody very close to Vultan and was there also trying to kill Vultan.
Yeah.
So like the distraction actually helped save Vultan's life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everybody's like, all right, screw you, Gelt.
Yeah. But the Changeling, Ludwig
I never liked
Schwarzhelm.
Balthasar Gelt anyways.
Yeah.
Give it. Who wears a mask in public?
Yeah. Ludwig Schwarzhelm kills the Changeling. Although with him being a demon, he's probably just going to come back.
Would have thought.
Yeah.
So
just like he resets him.
yeah, he's just gone back to the chaos.
He has to start
Warp
at the
for a
beginning of the
while.
level again.
Yeah. Bloop. And then he's going to respawn.
So at the end of this chapter, we discover that Karl Franz is not actually dead.
Not dead.
He was very badly wounded, and he kind of creeps through the Chaos war camp and finds Deathclaw and makes his escape to somewhere.
Was
to
Deathclaw,
somewhere.
like
Deathclaw was
captured?
being like tortured by the Chaos.
Oh, sweet. That's gonna unhinge him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was chapter 4.
All right.
And then the final chapter, I actually think is although it's the culmination of everything that's going on, it's kind of the weakest chapter.
Yeah, it's the climax, but a letdown at the same time.
It is a bit of a letdown. I think partially because it's so long and it's all undead versus
It's
undead.
all undead, so there's not really any interesting characters to develop. It's just kind of more Tomb Kings are fighting against.
Yeah. So effectively, there's a 3-pronged attack into Khemri.
So the backdrop for this is that Nagash, for his final ascendance to godlike power, needs to get into his black pyramid in Khemri.
Yep.
The black pyramid of Nagash, and he needs to like absorb all of the energy that he's planted there in the past and to make his ascendancy. But obviously Cetra's not going to be best pleased to just let Nagash wander in.
Exactly. So he puts up this big black cloud of stuff that covers the whole of Nehekara
Who does this?
and Nagash.
Oh, Nagash.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, oh, he's just blotting out the sun. But it turns out, no, this is the stuff that he's using to feed his black pyramid. So that when he gets in there and sits in his little chair,
His little chair.
he says, well, he has this
Little chair
ritual,
of
right?
Nagash.
It's a
Imagine like a rocking chair.
I know. with a little Afghan on it for me. Just put that over my lap.
Mr. Bigglesworth.
This is what it's all about. Archon T.
Anyway, meanwhile, back in Khemri,
Oh yeah.
so he's sent up this big black cloud, and then he's basically going to absorb all of this energy in a big ritual in his black pyramid. The tricky part is, how does he get in there? right? So Cetra,
Cetra.
how does he get past Cetra?
Okay.
Cetra's there the whole night. Like literally, the start of this chapter is kind of cool. It's like all the lich priests are all sent instructions.
Lychee priests.
Lychee priests. Tasty. Are sent the word to waken the Tomb Kings and their armies. And it's like, well, which ones? All of them. So the entirety of the nation is awoken and brought in. So I'm going to try and summarize it real quick.
Yeah, let's do this one quick.
There's a 3-pronged attack. One is Neferata goes to Lamia and distracts the crap out of everyone who hates her. So they all rush off to Lamia to try and kill Neferata, which weakens the main force.
Okay.
Krell leads a hammer blow of, basically tons of skeletons straight into Nehekara. And that's where, most of the fighting is done to try and keep them out. Mm-hmm. And then Manfred takes like a whole bunch of fast moving troops and meets up with Luthor Harkon, is that his name? The pirate king, the vampire pirate guy. And cool. So the fast moving guys and the sea guys kind of come down the river.
Do the old reach around.
Yep. Run in.
Krell plows down the center.
Yep.
Sorry.
And meanwhile Neferata's watching. And wow, you can tell it's late at night. They run into the fleet of Cetra as well. And so eventually everybody gets to get to Camry. Arkan is there with Corral, and Cetra's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. If we capture any of the Mortarks, we're going to do this ritual of unbinding so that they can never, ever be raised ever again. So Arkan the Black goes in, fights Cetra. Cetra kills him, cuts him in half, ties the two halves to the back of his chariot, rides it into the city, gives it to his lich priest, and says, "Okay, go do that ritual. I'm going to go back out."
Completely incinerates his soul so that he can never.
I'm going back out. Meanwhile, Nagash has turned the lich priest to his side.
Nagash, the lich priest who was supposed to be performing that ritual, Nagash has gotten into their head. Nagash has also bound his will into Arkan's body.
Yeah.
So by killing Arkan and dragging him in, they've brought
Nagash into Camry.
Into Camry.
And that was the coolest part of the whole chapter. They bring him inside, and the lich priest,
that's dirty.
Does his ritual, and then boom, Nagash is super powerful again. So then Nagash goes into the underworld and starts fighting Osiris or whatever
that god of the underworld.
Their god of the undead. So the way that the Tomb Kings raise people, they bring their souls back and put infuse them into the bones. Uh-huh. He stops that from being able to happen by kicking the butt of the god of the undead. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And the god of the underworld, and then so that stops Cetra's magical brooch from protecting him, because it was always the god of the underworld saying, "Okay, Cetra, you're going back to life again. You're going back to life."
And it means that his armies who are fighting against the vampire armies
can't come back.
They can't be raised anymore.
Yep, they're all reading their scrolls, going, "Okay, back you come, Oh."
So it just turns the whole tide of battle, because until then the Tomb Kings were just wrecking shop.
Yep, and then Nagash goes and kills Cetra. Or chops him up into bits, and he can't reform because Osiris is dead or defeated.
He just poofs him into
mid-air. There's this great last page.
Oh yeah, I read the last page.
Yeah, but before the last page, there's this awesome bit where so Nagash has just got. He has Cetra floating in midair in front of him because Nagash is massive and awesome.
Toying with him.
And he's just like, "I've humbled you, Cetra, proudest of kings, but now I offer you honor. Bow before me and you will be one of my Mortarks." And Cetra says, "Cetra does not serve, Cetra rules." And then Nagash just evaporates him.
Cetra rules!
Good for him.
Yeah.
And then Nagash jumps into the pyramid and flies off.
Yeah, lifts the whole pyramid out of Camry and, buggers off Stargate style in this pyramid. And
then the very last page is actually one of my favorite bits of the whole book, the very last page.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
It's just Yeah, it's like that. Cetra has been essentially evaporated, but his will is just kind of still floating there on the breeze. And then he hears like 4 voices whispering to him on the wind, which is obviously the Chaos Gods. And,
They're saying, we can rebuild you.
yeah, he's pretty depressed because he thinks he's just been entirely like destroyed and defeated. And the voices say, the battle is only over if you wish it. You can be king again, etc.
And they stitch him back together, and he stands
Wow.
up.
leaves it there, and it sets the scene for maybe
Fade to
he'll
black.
come back as like a
Was this some
Tomb
trick?
King of Chaos.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's
there you
it.
go. That's the fluff book in I don't know how long that took us.
It's not
but
really a nutshell, but
It was about an hour, I think.
an hour,
Not too
man.
bad.
Yeah,
it's a
not too
whole
bad to get
pile
through
of
with
nutshells.
300 pages.
I don't know why I bothered reading the book. I should have just sat down and for a while.
That was my plan all along.
Yeah. I would recommend reading the book.
Yeah,
I
I want
really
to.
enjoyed
It's
it.
just really good stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes with we read the Games Workshop stuff, it's a little dry, but I think the way that they did this, they have the narrative, they have the little story snippets that are like novel style, and then they have the battle descriptions and the photographs, and the pace of all of that just keeps you reading. Every single thing is like, oh, that's really interesting, and I want to see what happens next.
And I think that's something they must have been working on for a while, because I've noticed a lot of the
guess
newer
so,
books
yeah.
are starting to come that way. So if you're only interested in the Orcs and Goblins, you can just skip to the chapter, and you don't have to, like a novel, you don't have to say, oh, let me turn to page 97 and try and pick up on where I'm at.
Yeah,
But it worked really, I mean, it was the same for me. I could read it at 10 minutes at a time. I didn't have to delve into it for an hour, and I could read something, a week later, come right back to it, and I didn't feel like I had to catch back up.
Yeah.
So it was great in that regard. It was
Yeah.
good light reading.
The Art of War.
book 2, or what is it? Does it say part 2 on the book, or what does it
It's
say on
just
the
2.
front? 2. Nagash,
The
book 2.
Yeah, Nagash
Okay.
book 2.
So Nagash,
Book 2 of part 1 of the end times.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that book has about 100 pages of scenarios and rules and so forth in it. And I just mentioned the scenarios briefly. There's 19 of them, which is a pretty hefty amount to cover, all of the major battles that are mentioned
Wow.
in
I didn't even count them. I didn't know there was that many.
yeah, all the major battles that are in the story, and some of them I think are really interesting. I mentioned earlier one of them's a Triumph and Treachery battle. Another one is there's a couple of them where you have to take allies of Empire and Undead against Chaos, and all of them are like here's the characters you have to have, and here's how you have to put your armies together. Here's how you lay out the battlefield. And they're all quite in depth. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas to be picked out of there for scenarios in your own games, even if you don't play the actual historical ones. But you know what I mean.
It happened.
It happened in the really real world. So I quite liked it. I actually read through all of them. Some are really neat, and they have a bunch of rules around playing in those scenarios. So there's two main sets of rules for fighting the scenarios. One is about underground fighting. And I think there's about 7 or 8 special rules that can apply to that. Cave squigs and trolls can come wandering in. There can be cave-ins. Stalactites can be falling from the ceiling. Doom and gloom, so you can't really see much and can't see very far. Long range is basically 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of interesting stuff that starts to make it feel like you are actually fighting underground, which I really liked. So I think great for some thematic battles if you're fighting at home. Also interesting if you want to put together a thematic round in a tournament. Take some of these special rules. Nothing crazy or game changing or anything that we wouldn't see at a Sparkle party, for instance. So,
Wow.
and then the other set of rules was around these haunted battlefields. which have a whole bunch of bonuses for undead and interesting undead things happening. So makes a lot of sense given the backdrop for all of the battles that happen throughout the books. Some interesting stuff to be gleaned from there. But really, the interesting part and what we really want to go into are the new rules. So, new Warhammer rules. The biggest ones is, of course, the army composition rules.
Armies of the End Times, yeah.
Well, yes, it started as Armies of the End Times, but as we alluded to earlier, was FAQ'd or added to the errata, should say.
Of the official Warhammer book.
Official Warhammer errata. You now have Lords at 50%, Heroes at 50%, and the lore of Undeath is available to any wizard when they're generating their
Let's just
spells.
talk a little bit about how 50% Lords and Heroes changes armies that might be seen on the table.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
I mean, the first thing is it actually allows you to field things like Nagash and the Mortarks, which are too costly otherwise. For a lot of armies, it doesn't really seem to change much because you're not maxing out those allowances anyway in a lot of occasions.
Yeah, I think for most people who already have armies and have kind of balanced them out already, it's probably not going to change a whole lot. They might add one or two more items that they just couldn't quite fit in.
Yeah.
But I think what it really does is liberate new players, because it's easy to fill up a character, make a real expensive character to eat up a bunch of points and play a bigger game against your buddy who has a full army.
Yeah.
And it's also more economical to buy one character model and load that thing up and, or buy 3 or 4 character lords and, oh, look, all of a sudden I have 1,000 points of an army.
Yep.
And,
very quickly you can paint up a couple of core units.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have 3 units minimum plus characters, but you can now do that and get to 1,500 points
easily. Yeah. And I think I really appreciate it for that. And I think it's a good way for people who are starting out to pad points. And I think everybody can kind of agree that, character heavy lists tend to not do very well.
With a few exceptions.
A few exceptions in an all-comers environment. So I don't think it really changes that much for most armies. So
I think you will start seeing a lot more characters, if nothing else, because it just allows you. You're no longer for like the Skaven. I'm no longer. It's not either just a Grey Seer and a Lord. Now I can take some other things in addition to that.
Yeah.
Or I can take a Screaming Bell and still take a Warlord or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to start experimenting with that.
Yeah, people will do it just for the hell of it. I know. I'm planning to just experiment and see what can be done.
Sure.
There's a few armies that definitely benefit from it, like Dark Elves. Like, how many masters can you squeeze in a list? There's no such thing as too many.
Yeah. Well, and at the same time, you can't protect that many characters.
You can give them all 1-up armor, which is a pretty good start.
But 1-up armor, has a whole lore dedicated to defeating it.
Sure.
Right? And
a whole type of war machine dedicated to shooting them down. Well, all war machines. Right?
Yeah.
The bolt throwers are cheap and ignore armor saves.
Yep. And then above and beyond that, you could argue that you can, put all the characters in a unit and hide them behind something like the Banner of the World Dragon or the ogre one that forces you to redirect the spell, stuff like that. But there's for Banner of the World Dragon, there's some of the big spells that you don't get a ward save against, like Dwellers Below and so forth. So I think you're right. I think it's going to encourage people to experiment with different builds. I for sure expect to see double Demon Prince builds from Warriors of Chaos. Double Star Dragon builds from High Elves.
That's fun though. I want to see
cool
2
to
Star
see.
Dragons on the table. That was sweet.
And I think there'll be a lot of interesting stuff that people will be able to field. I still think that if you have more than 50% of your allocation in characters, you're probably going to find that your army's unbalanced. You
just don't have all the tools.
You don't have all the tools, and especially in modern tournament play, we have so many scenarios where you have to have units that can hold objectives. you have to have a fortitude. You know, you have to be able to maneuver. You know, I think so many characters get very vulnerable, especially to like death magic and you know stuff like that. So yeah, I don't. What about you, Tommy? You going to change any of your army lists with 50% allowance?
My Chaos Dwarf list doesn't change at all. Actually, I revised my Chaos Dwarf list and I just go like add an extra tiny bit more to my heroes allowance and put a second Khan in there on a wolf. So I think I get up to like 650 points in heroes. So tiny little change, nothing major. It just doesn't.
Oh, your Toruk is in the heroes, is
The
he?
Toruk is in heroes. I have a level 1 wizard in heroes.
And your
my
BSB.
BSB, and then 2 Khans on wolves.
Yeah.
So Chaos Dwarfs have a pretty stacked hero
Yeah.
section. Lords, we only have 1 lord you take. So
Yeah.
there's no reason to ever take 2 sorcerer prophets. So that doesn't change at all.
Yep.
So yeah, that list doesn't really change at all. My Beastmen, who we'll probably talk about next time when we talk about Legions of Chaos, they're going to become awesome, full of Chaos Warrior characters. So with them, I'll probably just like we said, experiment and max out the characters a little bit. Throw Glotkin in there and,
Yeah.
and a Chaos Lord.
Yeah. I think the limitation of magic items to really kit characters out is what's going to really enforce that there's only going to be certain types of builds you can do.
But with these mixed army books, you get
Yeah.
access to a lot of different items.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was thinking about this for Sparkle Party. I've been toying with taking the Wood Elves. I'm like, okay, I have 16 Dryads. There is no Branch Wraith model. So what if I just take 16 Branch Wraiths instead? There we go. I got a unit of Branch Wraiths. Every single one of them is a level 1 life wizard.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, 16. I got 16 channel dice.
Yes, do it.
One of them goes down the hole, or that one where all of your casters take a strength.
Yeah.
Oops, you just killed all your trees.
Yeah. I don't even know how many points is that. What's 16 times 675? 1,200 points. And,
There you go.
Yeah,
You're halfway there.
Yeah, there you go. 1 unit.
Yeah, that's hysterical.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny. I'd love to try it out just for giggles.
Yeah.
But seriously, no, I can't see. I can see it. It's being. I think we talked about this in the last episode. People squeezing in, going over that 600 point allowance in a 2,400 point game to get that, certain Lord build or certain hero build that they want. But that's about it.
It means there's some special characters that'll finally see the table. Thorgrim,
Mazdamundi, maybe.
Yeah.
There's been rumors of him coming in the end times. So
Yeah, I plan on just dropping. It's basically just going to be moving all the points that I was putting into heroes and straight into the lords, and it's not even going to change the overall.
you're not just going to drop a unit of 30 great weapon bosses on the table.
No,
The elite goblin infantry.
no, it would be cool, but there's no models for it, and I don't want to convert that many.
That many great weapon goblins.
fair.
Yeah, but yeah, it's I don't see myself. I do want to do. I think it'd be fun to do just one game, maybe 2 level 4s on Little Wa and a level 4 with on Death, and just throw out tons of magic.
Yep.
With lots of goblin dice going everywhere, because the night goblins get to throw the magic mushrooms with on Death, so they can.
Let's actually segue right into that. So this is the other rules that were introduced is the Lore of Undeath, and it's part of the main Warhammer Fantasy rules now too. They introduce a new spell type called a summoning spell. So this is a way to bring new units onto the battlefield. So up until this point, the various both the vampire counts and the Tomb Kings had a way to bring back or to create units. I think for vampires it was mostly zombies Could you do skeletons as well, or is it
You
just
can do skeleton warriors,
Yeah.
but only if you took Master of the Dead could you start making larger units than starting.
Yeah.
Like what the zombies can do.
Yeah.
So,
And with the Tomb Kings, I'm not sure about how exactly that worked. I'm not sure if they could just raise new units or if they could only just heal back their own. Either way, the whole idea behind the summoning spells is basically you can plunk down a brand new unit. There's a point limit. It tells you, it tells you in the spell, what the point limit is, what the type of unit is that you can summon, and the Lore of Undeath, where they can be, what range and so forth. So Lore of Undeath has, I think, 4 summoning spells. Is it
4 summoning spells, including the signature,
Yeah.
Yep.
and then an augment or 2 augments and
and a hex.
And a direct damage.
Is it direct damage?
Yeah.
All right. So it's an interesting lore. The big thing about it is that any wizard can take it.
Any wizard can take it.
So like you said, dwarfs still don't benefit, but all of
Chaos
the
Dwarves do.
Chaos Dwarfs do,
yeah.
Nobody likes you, Tom.
Can I bring my Chaos Dwarfs and my Legion of Chaos Wiki to Sparkle Party?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll take that.
We'll think about it. How much are you going to pay me?
So
Half of all the prizes I win.
so what do we think about the lore? Jesse, you've probably had the most exposure to it because you've been playing with Nagash.
So Jesse has
Yeah.
experience with it. With
I've
Nagash,
got a ton of experience with it. Yeah, it's been great. For Nagash, it's interesting because for the first time I came to the realization I don't have nearly enough vampire count models. And after buying 140 skeletons and 10 spirit hosts, I thought I had that pretty well covered. But the points for Nagash, this special rule allows you to actually triple the point value and the range of the spells. So I was finding myself dropping, 225 point swarms of spirit hosts. I think the cavalry allows a 450 point.
So why don't we just go
hex
through
rate
the
unit.
spells quickly, and you can say what are
Yeah.
your favorite things to summon with that points allowance.
Yeah, and the signature spell I think is what most people are going to take, and that's just for your basic infantry.
Yeah, so Rise the Grave Call is the signature
And
spell.
it's 50 points, for a normal caster, unless they want to bump it up. Then I think it goes to 150.
Yeah, it's
Well, it's
50, 100, and 150.
On a 9 up, 14 up, and 16 up to cast.
Yep.
In order.
And then the other thing to remember too is the signature, what was it
Lore
called? The lore attribute allows you to start taking tokens. So the more you summon, and then if you successfully cast
So
one of
every
these
time you
augments,
cast a spell, you get a token. You can spend those tokens for an extra 10 points later on, or for Nagash, an extra 30 points.
Yep.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. Nagash, you don't even need them.
So on a 9 up, so Nagash is a level 5 wizard.
Yep.
On a 9 up, so on 4 on the dice,
He's
you're
getting
bringing
150
points. What do you like to bring for your 150 points?
I've
onto
been
the table?
I've been experimenting with it. It's been kind of nice because I don't normally field Graveguard, so it's been a great opportunity to just drop down giant bricks or giant blocks of Graveguard and kind of see how they fare. Another bonus is once you summon something, of course, it doesn't count for victory points, so you can start throwing these 400 point units down.
You can just be very cavalier with them.
And then if they die, say la vie. But
How many Graveguard do you get for 200 points? I don't know the
God,
points cost of
they're
them.
11 stock. So even at 200 points, you're summoning almost 20 of them.
That's pretty good.
12 with a great weapon.
Yeah.
And
So that's an interesting part is that you can summon the unit with any of the upgrades that it can have.
The upgrades, yeah. So the Graveguard can take a magic standard. So guys can actually summon Graveguard and throw Banner of the Barrows in there or something else, which is just ridiculous.
And the characters can come on with magic items.
As long as it's part of their allotment. So you can have some really powerful builds that you can already have kind of pre-planned and actually kind of build your strategy.
It's very
around.
toolboxy.
It is yeah, it's really nice.
So, so here's the other question, and I don't know if you can answer this. Do you need to have Nagash to really benefit from this?
I've been spoiled by using him, so I'd say yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously dropping 450 points of cavalry is a lot more alluring than 150 points.
Well, the other side of it is, on a 9-up, you drop 50 points of a redirector.
That's where I think a big part of the utility is for a non-Nagash caster using it is you're getting small redirecting units basically, whereas Nagash is summoning
You're
like an
summoning
army
your
to
army.
fight.
Yeah.
Other armies can summon just kind of smaller utility units.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt that this is a great lore with Nagash. I'm still questioning whether it makes sense as a lore to bring with anything other than Nagash. It's definitely.
Fool.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, I think it's
Well,
fun.
I
you're-
think for Night
for
Goblins,
Night
for sure,
Goblins, yeah.
Yeah.
you've got some of the cheapest level 4 casters in the game.
Yep.
And you get an additional dice to cast pretty much all of your spells.
And I think that's it. If you're going to use it, I think you need a level 4.
Yeah,
'Cause
I would
when
only
first-
take it with a level
When
4.
I first started taking Nagash, of course, he's got 9 spells to choose from. So I figured, I just need 1 or 2 in Undeath. I'll be fine. I'll get what I want. But you know, missing one of those summon spells and getting some of the augment spells.
Yeah, which are
you know,
not
you
that
really
good.
you really need to be able to kind of stock up on that lore and dedicate your caster to it.
So a normal level 4 wizard, not Nagash, just a normal level 4, should be able to get 3 of the summon spells pretty reliably. Because numbers 4, 5, and 6 are all summons, so you should be rolling 2 out of the 3 of those on average, and then swap one of the others for Rise, and you should end up with 3 summon spells, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I made a little list of some things that I think would be very useful to bring for just non-Nagash lists.
So before we go into that, I'm just going to run through the spells.
Yeah,
real
just
quick.
real quick, yeah.
So we talked about Rise, which is the
Signature.
signature spell. So then we've got Morkarn, the Breath of Darkness, which is an augment that regains you wounds.
It's a terrible spell.
It gives you an extra, and this is another one that gives you kind of a free march also.
Gives you a free march,
which
yeah,
is
that
really
is-
all I think it's really good for.
On a
So
6
this
up,
is-
it's useful for the march.
Is this very similar to Van Hel's?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Only
except you
it's-
can't heal characters with it.
It's D3 plus wound instead of spellcasters, and then
Okay, so similar in function, and it's the number 1 spell, and those are traditionally
But
quite.
for a 6
quite
up
weak.
cast,
For a
that's
6
not
up,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah,
One
and then you-
dice at
and then you
unit.
get your and you also get your lore attribute counter, right, which can be helpful. So then another next one is Sulakim, the Hand of Dust. So this is an augment that you cast upon the wizard itself. He can exchange all of his attacks to make a single Hand of Dust attack. If he hits, the target suffers a wound with multiple wounds, D6 special rule, and no armor saves allowed. And if you slay an enemy character in a challenge with that, you get an extra D6 Raise the Dead counters.
Whoa.
You know, that is not terrible.
It's not terrible for most wizards because most wizards suck in combat. and that
Suck
can
in
help.
combat,
For
yeah.
Nagash, it sucks because
Yeah.
you'd much rather just make his
Just
7
rather hit
attacks
people with it, yeah.
the D3 wound sword.
Yeah.
But for a normal wizard, yeah, it's a pretty decent attack.
Yeah, somebody that only has 1 attack anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and then we have Kizar, the Soul Stealer. Direct damage spell, kind of similar.
It's a scream, basically.
it's a banshee scream.
It is a Banshee Scream, yeah. And again, if you cause wounds, you get extra Raise the Dead counters. And then the last 3 summon Swarms, War Beasts, and Monstrous Beasts for Razkar. You can summon Character, Monster, Chariot, or War Machine with Kandarak. And then Arkararan allows you to summon Cavalry, Monstrous Cavalry, or Chariots.
Up to 150 points.
Yeah,
So that's the one
150
where
points.
Nagash is bringing 450 points of cavalry onto the table, which is terrifying.
Yeah, or, if he's doing Kandarak and he does the boosted version, that gets you a Monster, Chariot, or War Machine up to 200 points. So that's 600 for him.
But you can't, there's not really much over 200. I mean, it lets
Yeah,
you bring a
it'll-
Terrorgeist, but that's...
Cameric Titan and stuff, right? Those things out of the big Tomb King things are all...
Yeah, but the rules for the spells all say the summoning spells all
They have to be
come
from the Undead
this book,
Legion.
so you can't.
Right.
Summon
So maybe not... Sorry, the Cameric Titan's actually from
You mean the
Forge
Sphinx?
Worlds. There's the Sphinx. There's the...
yeah, most of that stuff is castable
200.
just by a regular person
Well-
with a couple of tokens thrown in as well.
Hang
So
on.
Nagash isn't getting that much bonus.
So Kandarak, 1 second, allows you to summon a monster.
Uh-huh.
So if you look at Manfred, for example.
Yep.
When we come to him,
You
he
can
is a
summon those
monster.
guys, yeah.
This is the whole argument we had, though, and you said that I couldn't do it.
I don't know if you
went through this
can or
on the
not.
forum, because
Right.
I said I would use, like, for example, Akaran to just bring a vampire on a mount. And it was, you know,
Well,
people
so
said
here's the
that's
thing: if
not
it's a
cool.
vampire on a mount,
Then it's troop type cavalry.
it's troop. Well, it's troop type cavalry, but
Mhm.
it's a character that you're paying the upgrade for. So it would in my mind that would need the one where you can summon a character.
But
Roscar.
why would you be able to cast Manfred for a monster then?
Because
rather
he's
than-
troop
his
type
troop
monster?
type is monster only.
Yeah, but a vampire. His troop type is monster bracket special character.
Yes, but a vampire,
vampire on
is
a mount.
troop. But his troop type in the army entry is infantry.
But as soon as he's on a mount,
and
his
you
troop
bring the
type
upgrade.
is character. So if you
his troop
summon
type
him
is
on
cavalry. You mean?
is cavalry.
Yeah.
So if you summon him on a horse, then he's troop type cavalry.
Yeah, I don't know.
So this is the argument. I mean, if you can actually do it, like you said, then that spell becomes awesome because you can summon Manfred.
I mean, on a 24
summon-
plus, and you need to be Nagash to do it,
Yeah,
and you need to have undead count. You need to have the raise the dead counters on top of that, right? Yeah,
Couple, yeah, one or two.
it's
You
it's
can summon a
non-trivial. I
tooled
think
up
you should be
Tomb
able to,
King
but
on a Necros on a War Sphinx.
You'd have to really,
All
really
that kind of
dislike
stuff.
your
Well, no,
opponent
because-
to go to that extreme.
so I don't think you can do that.
That becomes troop type monster,
Mm,
just the same
no,
as Manfred.
Is it?
Yeah, as soon as you're on a monster, you're troop type monster.
Okay. That's right. You're right. It is treated as a monster. So I don't know.
So it kind of needs a ruling, I think.
But it
I don't know how to play
well but that's the thing. It's the same spell to summon a character and a monster.
it. Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really matter then, does it?
Well, because the low casting is supposed to be a character and the high casting is supposed to be a monster or chariot or war machine.
Yeah.
So the question is, can you use the high casting, which is supposed to be monster, chariot, or war machine, to bring a character who is just on a monster, chariot, or war machine?
Mm. I would say yes then.
Cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah, because that makes sense then, because it's the same spell, so you can get. And the thing is Nagash, triple the 65 points. He still can get some of the big guys in there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially if he has tokens up.
Jeez.
But yeah, for sure he could summon. On a 24 casting, summoning one of the Mortarks.
That
That
would be
seems pretty
sweet.
awesome.
650 points. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta
Who's
get that
also a
Mortark
level- who's also a
model,
level-
Jesse.
Who's also a level 4 caster on top of that.
Yeah.
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 I'm all for it if somebody can make it happen.
I mean, I think it'd be so epic in the game if you could actually get it off.
Mhm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Because even
game-winning-
if you, well, I mean, even if you 6 dice something, you're still only probably like a 1 in 4 chance of making that actually happen.
With Nagash?
Yeah.
Nah.
Unless
On
you
a
have
24 casting cost.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So he needs 19 on the dice on 6 dice. Better than average.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, 19.
Better than average. And if you put the Hierotitan in there,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
all the other little tricks that you can do
all the
with
little
the
tricks to
yeah.
help the boosting.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can make it pretty likely to get
that's true.
Manfred on the
Just
table.
gotta make
Do
sure
it,
you
Jesse.
have that
Just
model ready
gotta
to
get
go
the
there,
model.
Jesse.
Go to the Games Workshop store.
Yeah.
Pick up a Manfred.
Anyway, so there's all the spells. The question is,
What do you bring?
obviously they're awesome for Nagash. What do you do for not Nagash?
So hit us with your list.
I just have a few things that I think are nice. For Rise, the Grave Call. I think in the early game, it's always nice to put some Tomb King's archers on the table. They're like the perfect chaff deletion unit,
Yeah.
especially for shooting off things like what are your annoying dudes called? Way Watchers, things like that have
Always hit on
skirmish and
5,
hide in
yeah.
forests because the Tomb King archers don't take any
Yeah. or
penalties to
take
their
out those
shooting.
chameleon skinks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So for the medium version, you can put 16 Tomb King archers on the table, which is a decent amount. If you get, that would be my focus for turn 1.
Are they only 6
table.
points a pop?
Yeah, 6 points a pop.
That's pretty
So
good.
put them on the table, and you have like 6 turns of shooting with them.
Hmm.
Pretty solid buy. For the Abyssal Swarm, you get 75 points worth of swarms or war beasts. I really like to bring 3 carrion for that. I think is a nice summon.
They're the
They're-
flying ones.
Yeah, they're flying. They have like 3 wounds each, I think. They're flying units, so they go in skirmish formation. Very good redirectors because you get all the reforms you want with them. They're 24 points a model, so you're getting 3 for 75 points. Just a very useful unit for the movement phase.
Nice.
Can even do a little character assassination with them, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
For the character one, brings a lot of flexibility into the list, because if you happen to be in a game against another undead player or somebody with vampires, then you can summon a Leech Priest and get some Law of Light into your list through that, and start zapping Law of Light at the undead
Nice.
or the demons. So that's pretty nice.
That's
Otherwise,
interesting.
yeah, it is nice. If you don't have access to Law of Light, and you don't even have to buy it in your list, you just situational. All right, need some Law of Light. Bring that Leech Priest on the board. The Can Wraith is always a good buy as well. Just an ethereal character.
Yeah.
Good for redirecting and just holding people up.
Yeah.
Especially if you notice some small units of like knights and stuff. Very punchy small units who don't have a lot of ranks to crumble the unit just through static combat res. Put a little ethereal unit in front of them and you can really hold them up a long time. The cavalry one, you get 5 Hex Wraiths for 150 points, which is always a solid buy.
Hex Wraiths are
Yeah,
nasty.
they're really nice. And
Meanwhile, Jesse's destroying the dungeon.
so just again, flexibility, just being able to summon some magical attacks when you happen to need them.
Yeah, Hex Wraiths are really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Leech Priest is 70 points for a level,
Yeah, so you have to
level
spend
1.
a token on him.
Yeah. Now, being that he's infantry, that means you can also use the... if we're assuming
If our interpretation is right, you can
Yeah.
also use Rise Grave Call to bring
Yeah,
him.
so you could basically have a light council very
could
quickly.
Summon a little light council.
Yeah. If you only had one wizard with this, you could... you can also mount him on a skeletal steed for 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
So you could then have, if you had the 3 correct spells, the cavalry, the infantry, the character, you could summon a light council in a single turn.
And then here's the awesome part.
Yeah.
You have the Herdstone, and you summon them around the Herdstone.
Tom, you're a
And
jerk.
then you just start getting all the dice, and it's a positive feedback loop of all the win.
Oh man, you just broke the game.
You just unbroke the game.
That's Tom's job.
Yeah, good for you.
That's
It's
why
like,
you
what are you doing with that Headstone, bro? You don't have any casters. Oh, don't I?
You've only got one caster and a Herdstone? That's ridiculous.
Nagash and his Herdstone.
Yeah.
It's a 1,000-point army. I'll take anybody.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Cool.
Then I might 6 dice the Harbinger one as well and bring a Vargolf onto the table
Nice.
just for giggles. Vargolf is good because he's vampiric, so he can march off on his own and do his own thing and
Can
not
do
have
it
to be in the
alone.
bubble.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. There's some neat units in the Tomb Kings books. I think we're kind of going to move on to that now. The Undead Legion, it uncripples the Tomb Kings a little bit because now they don't have the Nehekaran undead rule in the same way. They don't all crumble when the Hierotitan dies, the Hierophant dies, and instead they can actually stick around,
And they can march now.
and they can
within the
march.
general's
Yes,
bubble.
yeah. So just like how the VC have always been able to do, now the Tomb King can as well.
So before we leave these spells, what's the coolest thing you've summoned so far, Jesse?
Oh, that'd have to be against you, Tom, and that would be
Just
my.
all the spirit
I think
hosts.
it would just be the several rounds of spirit host walls.
Hundreds and hundreds
That
of points
was,
worth of. Here's just 5 spirit hosts every round of the game, just popping up all. Because I was spending all my dice to prevent the 450 points worth of cavalry spell.
Yeah.
So then it's just like
All right. Spirit hosts. Are they infantry?
Spirit hosts.
Swarms.
They're the swarms. So Nagash is getting 225 points
I think
of swarms.
he almost summoned his point value back on the game against the Chaos Dwarves.
Oh, yeah.
So
What did the spirit hosts do? Did they do anything in the game? Just die every time you brought
die
them
and
up?
hold everything up, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a great way when a Kadai destroyer is charging towards you. It's nice to put a wall
Yeah,
of
just a wall
ethereal
of
in front of him.
spirit hosts.
Oh, he can't. Does he not have magical attacks?
Kadai doesn't know.
Ah,
So he just gets completely railroaded by them.
that's
I did
hilarious.
on my last turn. I just charged him straight into them, and then 6 dice the enchanted blades on him.
Yeah.
And
That's
then he
awesome.
Then he
Then he has magical attacks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then he does.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, there was more spirit hosts than ever, which was cool because they're
Mhm.
freaking awesome models. The new spirit
yeah,
hosts, and
super
they were
cool.
just all over the table.
Great
Pretty
motivation.
crazy.
Great
Yeah, just
motivation to
popping
finally
up and
paint those.
pop up and kill all my war machines, and
Did they?
Yeah,
yeah,
they killed a Death
Yeah.
Shrieker, I think, and a level 1 caster.
you killed all the war
and-
machines by the end.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So did you win that game?
It was actually a draw when all was said and done.
It was a tie on points, but we were playing the secret missions from Sparkle Party, and
Mhm.
Jesse achieved his, and I didn't. So it
Ha
would have been
ha.
a 50-10 game.
What was your mission?
None shall pass. So
Oh.
against Chaos
Against
Dwarves.
Chaos Dwarfs, it's a no-brainer.
Yep,
It's like they're not even going to try and come to my side of the table,
Yeah.
so whatever.
I figured everybody would play that one against you.
Yeah.
Seems like a good plan.
Well, not anymore.
All right.
Not now I'm bringing the Beastmen of Doom.
All right. Meanwhile,
The
back,
Glot Men.
Meanwhile, back in the end times.
Back in the end
back
times,
in the
yeah.
real world.
yeah. So that was Lore of Undeath. Let's talk a little bit about the Undead Legion. I think is that the next. So Tom, give us a summary of what's changed there.
Jesse, give us a summary of what's
Summary of
changed.
what's
there.
changed.
Oh, it's
What does the
delegation.
Undead Legion do?
Never playing the Tomb Kings before.
What do you feel has changed for your vampire counts?
It gave the vampire counts. I had always built them as a very themed list. I guess I actually kind of built them more similar to a Tomb King's army, where it was only
a
skeletons.
lot of skeletons, yeah.
I was using a lot of ghosts or ethereal stuff also, but it gave me a ton of versatility in that now archers are included in there, chariots, cannon, or catapults. Along with a lot of the Tomb King stuff, the Cascade of Souls and the Hyro Titan, which I never even heard of prior to having the opportunity to use them, which is great. And,
Jesse's turned into a power gamer now.
I have
Yeah.
spent too much time with you guys. But once I started seeing that stuff, it totally opens it up. I'm no longer restricted to an army that has no shooting phase, or
Right.
an army that's not necessarily very maneuverable.
But still being skeletal.
Still being skeleton was great for me because it
So the
definitely
big change
fits.
that allows a lot of those sneaky tactics is just the statement that there's no such thing as Neakaran undead anymore. That just changed to
Everything
being
just turns
undead.
into undead.
And it's all just controlled by the undead rule that's printed in this book, which means when the Hyra Titan says he gives plus D3 bonus to all casting by Neakaran undead, it now just
Yeah, it
means
just works for
by all
any
undead,
undead.
so it works on
Oh, nice.
works on Nagash.
Everyone,
everybody,
yeah,
yeah.
with that
So
rule.
that's
And personally, I think a lot of the stuff is great. I mean, I think the Tomb Kings had a lot of units with really cool special rules. They just never really had the synergy to be a
Right.
powerful army.
And some of their things synergize beautifully with vampire
Oh,
counts.
amazing! And
Yeah.
it still allows you to make really cool themed lists. I've always had very strong cores of skeletons. So the Tomb Kings, I didn't know either. Their princes and their kings, convey weapon skill to the skeletons, or their. Someone's gonna laugh at me. I don't have the book in front of me, but I think the one of the Tomb King units or Tomb King heroes, maybe it's the Tomb Herald, gives them hatred. So you can really buff
The
your
Necrotect. gives
Necrotect,
you
maybe.
hatred,
Yeah.
You can really kind of synergize.
So there's a really sweet unit you can build now, which is the Grave Guard with a Tomb King, so their weapon skill 6, with the Banner of the Barrows.
Hitting
Is
on
that the one that's
twos,
plus
yeah.
1 to hit? And then with a Necrotect as well, so hatred. So against most stuff you're hitting on 2s with a reroll.
Whoa.
And
with great
there's
weapons.
a straight strength 6 killing blow.
And then you get your
Yeah.
corpse cart behind there, giving them always strikes first on top of that. So.
Nice. That's so epic.
Whoa.
See, I
That's
really,
really epic.
I like the the themes that this unlocks, because now you can do like a Bretonian themed undead army.
The Moussalon, or
because you could have,
You have
your
a lot of
Screaming
archers
Skull
and
catapults can be the trebuchets,
yeah.
and you can have the bowmen archers.
Yeah.
You can really start doing some stuff that you kind of made sense to do in the past, but
Yeah.
you just couldn't quite do because there wasn't rules for it. And now having access to both them gives you that perfect access. You could be like, oh, this is a vampire. A vampire took over this Bretonian city, and this is what happened.
Yeah.
So like it just gives you those interesting pairings.
And Lore of Neokara now becomes really good because it allows you to build basically the most mobile undead army ever, because you're now marching within the leadership's bubble, and then you have the signature spell from Lore of Neokara allows everything within 6 inches to make another move.
And then the undead spell that gives them another move as
then
well.
you've got Van
so
Hell's
you could
Dance Macabre moving again. So you have a crazy fast undead army, which is pretty funny.
Which is good because they were kind of slow.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's another one of those things like the Chaos Legion. It unlocks a lot of really cool themed lists that hopefully people will use this to do. It also opens the door for a lot of power gaming,
Really power gaming
which
lists.
people will do.
Yeah, but the thing is that it was kind of two. One was a kind of a weak book, and one was a middle of the road book, and you put them together, and now it becomes a really good combo.
Yeah, it allows undead to be one of the top armies.
And I just think that because there are so many options and so many ways you could play it now, that we're not going to just keep seeing the same thing. We didn't really do that with VC anyways, because VC had pretty good internal balance. There was a lot of different ways you could play that. But I think you're going to see even more of that now. You're going to just see completely wacky things, and you'll be like, "Whoa, those combos are whoa!" Or
Mind equals blown.
or the themes are going to be like, "Wow, that's an incredible theme. I love all the conversions." Weird stuff like that's going to start popping up that we maybe didn't see as much before.
And I think this is going to probably help the Tomb Kings out the most, or the Tomb King players, because it gives them so many more options. Or they can.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You don't have to just make an Undead Legion army. You can still fit within your theme and just kind of mix some of the vampire count stuff in there.
This and Chaos Legions is going to make tournaments quite unwieldy, though. When for Chaos Legion, you turn up, you have to have this book, Beastmen, Demons, Warriors of Chaos. You have this stack of books that you bring to the table. With you.
Only jerks are going to have to carry
Here's
those.
my stack of rules.
Okay. Speaking of rules, how about we run through the new characters that have come out? And I think that'll probably take us to the end of the
that'll
book.
wrap us up. Yeah.
So let's start with the Supreme Necromancer himself, the Arch Necromancer, as his special rule is called, Nagash. So he is 7s across the board, pretty much, except he's got 6 in move, initiative, and attacks, and he's 10 leadership. So he's pretty tough.
Solid stat line.
Yep, he is a level 5 wizard. I think he's the only one in the game.
There's even a designer's note in there. Just he's so incredibly powerful. He's the only.
Yeah, he's an
the only
exception to the
level
rule.
5,
And so he's a large target. He causes terror. He's undead, and he has 3 special rules. Arch Necromancer. So if he miscasts, you get to reroll on the miscast table. That's pretty darn good. So he's less likely to.
So when you don't get Dimensional Cascade, you can re-roll and get Dimensional Cascade.
So you can do that as many times as you can only
Reroll
once, obviously, but as many times
Every time you miscast.
Every time you miscast.
Yep,
That's really
for sure.
solid. That's like having that one item, but as many as you possibly want.
Yeah, the earthing rod.
The
is it?
earthing rod, yeah.
Or
It's like having infinite earthing rods.
What's the
Soul of
throne?
Stone or
The
something,
throne
is it?
of vines or whatever.
Well,
Throne
Throne
of
of
Vines
Vines is
just
a little
ignore it
different. Yeah,
altogether.
pretty much a 2-up ward against miscast.
Yeah.
So the other special he's got is Death Magic Incarnate.
That's probably the biggest one there.
Yeah.
That's huge for undead.
Yeah, so they get 2 less wounds than they normally would from the Unstable rule, which is in addition to other things like, is it the banner?
They're BSB, and then there's also some Morghasts, I think they are. There's a character later in the book that also reduces crumble.
Yeah,
So
this is all-
theoretically, you could have a -40 or crumbles.
That's pretty darn good. So even if you lose by 4
Solid.
in that case, you would not be
You'd
losing any
draw.
models. So it's basically about making and this makes sense with all the end times fluff, is saying, the magic that binds the undead together is stronger than it used to be, and especially around Nagash. Okay, and Supreme Lord of the Undead, this is one we've already talked about. He basically triples the number of points whenever he casts summoning spells.
And very importantly, triples the distance.
Triples
so
the
you
range.
get stuff right behind the enemy lines.
Yeah.
36 inches you can summon all the way at their deployment zone on turn one.
That's what I saw in the game you played against Riley. First turn, he just summoned something that popped all of your fanatics immediately, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Annoying.
So yeah, it's 12 inch
I knew it
range,
was bound
and
to happen.
all the summoning spells becomes a 36 inch range. So, he's 1,000 points. We didn't mention that at start. So that's pretty.
That's quite a lot of points.
Pretty much. You're basically saying, okay, this is my army, and now I've got all this other stuff to kind of support it. But Nagash. So let's just go through his magic items. Obviously, we talked a bit about these in the fluff section. He's got Alakanash, the Staff of Power. This allows him to store up to 4 power dice to use in a subsequent magic phase. That's pretty darn cool. And he can also pop those out in addition to the 6 dice that you can throw at a spell. So he can throw up to 10 dice at a spell.
That's awesome.
So that makes that 24 plus seem...
Yeah.
For when you really, really, really want to miscast.
Yeah. It's turn 6 and I still haven't earned my Dimensional Cascade points for the round.
Yeah. Throw them.
Yeah.
Guaranteed miscast and then re-roll the Dimensional Cascade.
Yeah. Woo!
And also worth noting, I think, and I've used it a couple times, you can also use those to replace an attack with the Heroic Killing Blow special ability. So if he ever goes toe-to-toe with the Glotkin or somebody else.
Gross.
So you can spend 4 dice and get 4 attacks with
Heroic Killing Blows, yeah.
That's
nice.
With Weapon Skill 7, he's likely...
He's very much a beast in combat.
He is nasty.
He kills.
So he's got a 4-up armor save and a 4-up ward save from Marking the Black Armor. He's got the 9 Books of Nagash, which allow him to know 9 spells. One's always Rise, which is the signature from Lore of Undeath. And then he generates the other 8 spells from Death, Light, Nehakara, Vampires, or Undeath in any combination.
What's the strategy here, Jesse? How do you choose?
I've kind of evolved. I tried starting out with the Nehakara. I tried actually taking something from all the lores, but I think you really either have to lore master the Undeath or at least put 4 spells into it.
To make sure you get at least 3. You want at least 3
I
summons.
found myself hardly ever using the vampire spells, and if I did, it was only for the augments, re-rolled a hit or a little bit extra movement.
And just to get a wound back on Nagash.
You use Nagash to spam Undeath.
Yeah. But, I could absolutely see you taking 4 in Undeath, and then taking the other 4 in, like, Light, for example.
I would always take at least 1 Light.
I would take
for
Death.
Well,
magic missiles are always nice.
Yeah, and is it Shem's Burning Gaze? Is
the signature.
Hero Titan gets that stock.
Yeah, that's true. But Light has some really nice buffs as well, especially for undead, like rising their initiative to 10 and stuff.
That could be good.
Weapon skill.
Yeah, Light is a very solid lore.
I'd like to try Nagash at least.
But I think you really have to make sure you get all of the summon spells.
My first 2 games I got burned because it was always that one thing that I built my army around. Like I wanted more swarms. That was the one spell I didn't get.
Yeah.
And so you really.
Yeah, you do need.
Because with a level 5 wizard, you're going to often have enough dice to cast all 4 of those spells in a turn. So if you can make the most of them, you got to do that.
Especially with your Herdstone.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, he's got Zephet Nebtar, the Mortis Blade, +1 strength and D3 multiple wounds. So 6 attacks at strength 8, doing D3 wounds.
That's adding insult to injury.
And he's a monster.
And you can make 4 of them.
Is he a monster? No, he's not a monster.
Oh, he is a monster.
He is a monster.
Troop
type monster. So he gets his Thunder Stomp.
Too.
Strength 7, Thunder Stomp.
The question is, can he stand up to Call Franz?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think they maybe kill each other at the same time.
I think his summoned hordes will keep him far enough away that shouldn't be an issue.
We'll put them in the pit and see what happens.
Not with flight.
Not with flying.
Death Clock and fly.
No.
Yeah. Unless you put them literally right 1 inch away, so he can't land there.
Yeah.
Just do a conga line of spirits in the direct trajectory between Karl Franz and you. You can't land.
All right, so let's go on to Manfred. So
well, how do you kill Nagash?
How do you
That's
kill
the question.
Nagash?
What do you do
He's-
against Nagash?
You don't
Pew,
shoot him with
pew.
Death Shrieker Rockets.
You
I
don't
can
shoot
tell
him
you
with
that.
Death Shriekers. That's the bad choice.
That didn't work
final
as well.
trans.
They just bounce off him, off his hat.
Honestly, I think it's been the magic phase that's killed him
Poison.
more times than anybody.
Poison.
Yeah, poisoned.
I got 3 wounds on him with Searing Doom.
Mhm.
That was the
And,
closest I got to
those-
killing him.
That's what Michael used to kill Riley's, I think.
yeah.
Even poison is tricky though, because most poison is just straight up your regular save. So he's a 4-up, 4-up.
Yeah.
So what a friend of ours did a couple games ago is actually really clever. He used Arcane Unforging
Yeah.
and just
that's-
happened to luck out. He wasn't even trying to, but he managed to destroy the black
Marking,
armor.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
also happened to have about 30 chameleon skinks in the vicinity of Nagash.
Yeah.
And
So
one
you've got
turn,
no saves
one
against
turn shot him
poison
into oblivion. Yeah,
whatsoever.
every 6, and he rolled hot.
Yeah, I mean that's
Um,
at that point he's not that hard to kill if he's got
Right.
no armor or ward save.
No, nothing.
It's interesting, the 9 books of Nagash, there's been a bit of a debate, what happens when you arcane unforge those.
Mhm.
I think locally we've decided that this is a one-use item that's used at the start of the game
To generate spells.
to generate spells, and so therefore it's not even counted as part of arcane unforging. You just hit Alakanash, Mararcane, or Zephyr Nebtar.
That's how
Yeah.
we play
Seems
it.
like a decent way to play it. People have tried to argue that he would lose all of his spells because without these books you don't
That
know
seems
spells.
nonsense.
I would say at the very most you could argue that he loses 4 spells.
Yeah, because he's
Because
a level
5 wizard, and that means he's always allowed to know 5 spells. The books just bump that to 9.
I just think that seems very complicated.
It is. It's dumb.
I like the other interpretation better.
Yeah, I prefer it.
And then when I played against you, Ricky, actually, you tried kind of a unique strategy, and I don't know orcs and goblins magic for beams.
It's not a unique strategy. It was
But,
a chain of incredible
well,
luck.
okay,
Incredible
so
luck, yeah.
yeah, I was playing you with my OFCC list, which was not a very competitive list,
That was
but it
perfect.
did have the wizarding hat, and I managed to roll Lore of Shadow, and then I also managed to roll Pit of Shades, and I took Miasma, and then with my level 4 on Little Wog, I got Itchy Nuisance.
Mhm.
And then I happened to get a nice large magic phase, and I got Miasma off on you, and I lowered you by by 3 with the D3, and then on the initiative, right? And then I got Itchy Nuisance off, but I only got 1 pip on that, right? Or was it 2 pips?
You got him down to initiative 1.
I got him
It was
to, no, it's down to initiative,
Initiative
2.
2. That's
Yeah,
right,
so I think I rolled 1 pip on Itchy Nuisance, which is lowers your initiative by D6, which I just got a crappy roll there. And then on top of that, I managed to get Pit of Shades off right on top of Nagash, and it didn't scatter off.
Mm-mm.
And all you needed to do was roll
3 up.
a 3
to
up,
die.
and I would have had that game. But
Mhm.
you rolled a 2.
The
So-
one time my dice.
Yeah, so
worked
it
in my
was.
favor.
That's not a combo that I think people could count on, because that was a whole string of
That's not a-
events.
that's
I
not a
think
viable strategy.
I think it really makes it. I mean,
was
'cause he can
it's
eat cannon
hilarious.
shots all day.
Yeah.
In my experience, between the ward save and just rolling to hit and
And just
Yeah.
a bucket of wounds, you know.
oh yeah. And then he gets them back every turn. The magic phase has actually been what scared me the most.
Mm-hmm.
Because 6 dicing a spell is not that difficult to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially
I
with
think-
night goblins. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it was just, it was the perfect string of events that, had it worked, it would have been the most epic thing ever. But
Most
total
awesome thing
perfect
ever done.
goblin-y, like,
Failed on the
yeah.
last.
Nagash, just his will was so strong that he still passed on a 2, and I'm just like, but yeah, so I think magic is what's going to kill him more than anything.
Magic missiles
Yeah.
or anything.
I think you're just going to see
Law
that
of Light.
happen. Yeah.
The Light Council will
Laura
will
Death,
banish him.
Laura Death, and Laura Light. Like, and I'm surprised he doesn't have a rule that actually makes him immune to Laura Death. But
That's
Yeah.
true. That'd
Um,
be fitting.
I think they ran out of room after.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
So, like
all the
after the
special
full
rules.
page.
Rules, yeah.
All right, let's burn through some of the other
Yeah, let's
special
move on to
characters.
the triple kit of the 3 Mortocks riding their dread
Mhm.
abyssals.
Yep. So Manfred, we've got a level 4 wizard. He can take spells from death, vampires, and undeath. And he is weapon skill 7, strength 5, tough 6, 10 wounds, 9 attacks, initiative 7, leadership 10. So this
He's
is
a blender.
yeah. This is he's riding on this abyssal what do they call them?
Abyssal.
Dread
Dread
Abyssals,
Abyssals
yeah.
is what it's called.
Um,
Ashigarath.
And so they have a combined profile because he's on a monster. There's no two separate profiles like you have for most ridden monsters. One for the monster, one for the rider. He's just treated as a single monster.
And looking at End Times Glotkin, it looks like that's something they're doing for all
all the
characters
End
riding
Times at
mounts,
least.
and that's
Yeah.
really interesting.
And if you look at it, it's actually just add the wounds, add the attacks, and then take the highest stat
of
everything else.
Yeah, basically.
And I'm like, okay, if that's how things are going to be, I'm looking forward to making my own custom characters riding monsters. That'd be cool.
If they just change it to that for everything, that would be sweet.
Pop stuff on a dragon and get 10 wounds. Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
So
But Manfred has rules that just make him, really blend in combat. He's got the Dark Cunning, where he can choose to remove or add 3 dice from the power pool in the magic phase. So for each dice removed, he increases his attack characteristic by 1 for that phase, and for everyone added, he decreases it by 1 for the phase. So it means in the early game, before you're in combat, you can lose a bunch of attacks to bump up your power pool.
I could still see him bumping the power pool even
Yeah, true. Even in
in
combat,
combat, because
But once
he's
you-
got so many anyways.
Yeah.
And stomp.
But
and
when you get
everything.
into combat, you can get your attacks up to
Yeah.
12 by taking some dice out the pool.
Yeah.
It's true that dice are probably more useful in the power pool than in.
Yeah.
in
It just
attacks.
depends on if you have anything you can cast into combat or not.
Right.
But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty neat rule, though.
Yeah, it is.
I
It gives
like it a
him
lot.
it gives him a lot of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that kind of goes hand in hand. Just to jump forward a few, he's also got the magical sword that every time he does cause a wound, each unsave one, he gets an additional magic dice. So you're kind of gambling. You can always gamble those extra dice to increase the amount of wounds you're going to cause.
And above and beyond that, the Master of the Black Art special rule that he's got allows him to re-roll one of the dice for the winds of magic. So this guy's a bit of a douchebag.
I really like him, actually.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Cool cost is 650
650 points, and he's definitely not as hard to kill as Nagash, but
Yeah, he's got a 5-up. He's got a 4-up armor save.
10 wounds is basically the defense that he
And
has.
10 wounds. He got no
has no
ward
ward
save. So he's definitely, he's cannon bait, but at the same time, you're going to have to hit him with 2 cannon shots to take him down.
3 reliably. Yeah.
3 reliably, yeah. 2 is a minimum.
And
And
for every unsaved wound, roll a d6 on a 6, regain a wound.
Yep.
So that once you've lost a bunch of wounds, that's when you start adding as many
Combat attacks
as
yeah,
you
yeah.
can and start getting wounds back that way.
Yep. He flies around the place, and he's also he doubles the range for summoning spells, so he can get him in there 2 feet away, which is not to be sniffed at.
He just gives you a really, really powerful magic phase, huh?
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
If he could be taken with Nagash, magic phases would be absurd.
He cannot unless you're playing 3,300 points.
Or unless we're allowing him to be summoned. Summon him turn 1, and then the rest of the magic phases are just obscene.
all the magic phase.
Obscene.
Yes. Okay.
he
Skipping the movement
flies,
phase.
right?
Yeah. Yes, he does. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All of the Dread Abyssals fly. Can we move on to Arcan?
Arkan the Black.
Yeah. So Arcan is the Mortarch of Sacrament. He's actually, probably got the shoddiest profile. He's only weapon skill 4. He's still tough 6 with 8 wounds and 7 attacks, but he's only initiative 3 and strength 5. He's a level 4 wizard, either death or undeath. His Mortarch special rule is that he doubles the number of points that can be summoned. So he's like the mini Nagash in that regard.
He's also got a similar staff to Nagash, and he can store power dice and then use those for the next turn of combat.
Yeah, and he suffers
Magic.
1 less wound from unstable. Other than that, he's got this Tomb Blade that anytime somebody has an unsaved wound, he in close combat, he immediately regains a wound lost earlier in the battle. Up to a maximum of 4 in 1 combat. So
that's awesome. Yeah, if you can get him in
Very
against a bunch
survivable.
of infantry, then
Yeah, so I mean, he's not as good as Manfred, I don't think.
I don't think either.
650 points.
I think the bonus there is that he can summon the double point value.
He can summon a double points.
Yeah, but still only within 12 inches.
Yeah, he can store power dice,
Is
so
that
he
double
can.
distance too?
No,
He's not double, just double points.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
yeah. So
He's kind of a mini Nagash, but for me, he just falls way short of Manfred in
yeah,
terms of overall power.
and he doesn't. Does he have any save?
No.
He has no save at all.
Armor save of 6 up for being mounted.
Yeah, and that's it. So he's really vulnerable for 650 points. I can't see him being
Yeah, he's
taken
just
very
getting
often,
poisoned off the table.
which is a shame because I really like his model.
Mm-hmm.
He does have the big hat syndrome, but
His armor looks pretty cool.
his armor looks cool, which he doesn't actually have. And
Yeah, right.
his Dread Abyssal looks pretty cool. All right, so on to Neferata, she of the pointy chin.
Yeah, she does.
She
She
does.
has the best combat stats of all of the Mortarks. I
Yeah.
think she's weapon skill 8 and strength 5, tough 6, 8 wounds, 9 initiative, and 8 attacks.
Always strikes first.
She's ASF, yeah. She's level 3 wizard, death, shadow, vampires, and undeath. So, being able to take shadows, no.
Yeah, that's
bad
pretty
thing.
sweet.
Her Mortark rule, she has the same thing about getting wounds back on a 6. Her Mortark rule is first time she slays an opponent in a challenge, you place a vampire within 12 inches. I like the fluff of that. It's basically she turns a character into a vampire. But at the same time, I mean, it was a 65-point vampire.
Yeah, a naked vampire is not that good.
Not that great. It's a nice little redirector for free. That's about it. Her other special rule is Twilight's Allure. Everybody gets -1 to hit her except for High Queen Khalida, which is pretty
I
funny.
think has hatred
that's
against her
funny.
too, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think so. Then she's got the Dagger of Jet. Tom, can you talk us through that while I take a drink?
The Dagger of Jet. What does that do? If she inflicts at least 1 unsaved wound in a challenge, then that whoever she's in a challenge with loses a strength, toughness, and attack point to a minimum of 1 for the remainder of the game. So that's pretty. She is decent in a challenge for sure. As soon as she's done a wound, strength and toughness come down. Gonna make it a lot easier for her to follow through and win that challenge.
Do you think she could take on the Glockkin?
She couldn't take on the Glock.
No way. I think only Manfred could. Maybe. I think Manfred could, but not Neferata. And then she's got this thing for anytime she casts a spell on an enemy unit, effectively, they take D3 strength 5 hits as well.
So she has a lot of kind of situational special rules, challenges and stuff. So she has some nice gimmicks, but she's just nowhere nearly as useful all around as Manfred again, I think.
No, and I I think I don't like her model very much.
You don't?
No, I mean it's pretty, but I don't like the ridiculously huge headdress that she has.
What about her boobs?
I mean, how can you say no to boobs? All right, so Krell, the Mortark
Amen,
of Despair.
Well, she just got this model in the mail a couple days ago. It was so popular when the Undead Legions came out. It was out of stock for.
Krell was?
Yeah,
You
it
just
was out
got
of stock
Krell?
for probably a good month.
Cool.
So
I love Krell.
the model's amazing.
I love his mohawk helmet.
Yeah.
I got a mohawk, I got horns, I got skulls, I got
I love how
great
ridiculously
big
huge.
axe.
I love how ridiculously huge he looks on a 20 mil base.
Yeah. He's a big dude. I like him. There's nothing subtle about him. He's 250 points of lords. His weapon skill 5, strength 4, tough 5, 4 wounds, initiative 5, 4 attacks. And he's got killing blow. He's got a 4-up armor save. Now his magical armor, how does this work?
If somebody wounds him and he makes his armor save for whatever reason, that magical weapon is now destroyed essentially, kind of like an arcane unforging thing.
Nice.
But it's only going to be a lower strength weapon that'll ever wound him. But
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's tough 5, so.
yeah. But a 4+ armor save if he's going to make armor
that's
save.
right. The armor save.
It would have to be a strength 5 or
Or
lower,
lower,
to have
yeah.
a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. So his Mortark rule is he regains a wound if enemy unit within 12 inches fails a fear, terror, or break test. Oh, pardon me.
Which seems kind of silly considering there's so many vampire, spells and so many other things that regain wounds anyways. But it's kind of a cool fluff.
Mm.
Kind of a cool fluff.
And his black axe is pretty sweet. +2 strength, so
Yeah.
he's actually hitting at strength 6 and doing D3 wounds.
Yep, he's ASL, so it's like basically a great weapon.
Which is so sad for an Initiative 5 model. That's just wrong.
Yep, and if he's fighting in the same fight as Nagash,
Heroic
because
killing blow.
he gets heroic killing blow. So if you want to use your full 1,250 points of Lords and take him in Corral, you can.
So I think in the Vampires book, I think it's that if he's in
Heinrich
the same
Himmler.
unit as Heinrich Himmler,
And
he
this
gets
one
heroic
specifically
killing blow.
says he has to
So
be
now-
he has to be in a challenge while in the same combat as Nagash. So you would have to either flank
now
attack
he's-
the same unit, and he'd
He's been
be the
rebound to Nagash.
he's his champion for all intents and purposes.
All right, Vlad. The original.
Vlad is basically exactly the same, I think, as in the Vampires book,
Yeah,
except for he's gained the Mortarch of Shadow rule.
yeah, and he can cast Lore of Undeath, obviously, but
Mhm,
everybody
mhm.
can. So the Mortarch of Shadow is enemy units have an additional -1 leadership within 12 inches, and shooting in close combat attacks directed against Vlad or his unit suffer -1 penalty to hit. That's
Yep.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
But he's 500 points for an infantry model.
Yeah, but he in the Vampires book, I think he's 485 points, so he's getting that Mortarch of Shadow rule for 5 points
That's
essentially.
not bad. Yeah, and he's a neat little model. I quite like. I mean, he's got a ridiculously huge shoulder pad.
Yeah.
I like some of the detail on that little model. So, yep, he hasn't changed much.
I mean, he's incredibly hard to kill with that -1 to hit, and then plus he has the boosted hunger thing where every
a 4+.
wound he makes, he's getting a wound back on a 4-up.
And he's got a 4-up ward, and if he
4-up
dies, he
ward.
come on a 2+, he comes back with a single wound, and so
Yeah.
he's going to get all of his wounds back. And yeah, he is tricky to kill.
He's very tough to kill, which is exactly how it should be.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and the last thing I think that we need to cover are the Morghasts.
Yep. And these I haven't had a chance to try these out. I don't know if I necessarily feel too inspired to.
So these
Yeah.
are new monstrous infantry models.
Mm-hmm.
They're strength and tough 5 with 4 wounds and 3 attacks. Leadership 10. They have special rule to reduce crumble by 1 for themselves and all friendly units within 12 inches. They can hover, so this is basically the same as fly, except you can't march. Killing blow, terror, undead, 80 points. They come with 2 hand weapons and heavy armor.
And I think the most interesting thing is they also take away 1 from crumble. So
Yeah.
if they're near Nagash and the BSB, that's where you get your -4.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then there's a 90-point version, which has exactly the same stat line, but
4+.
comes with a halberd and a 4-up armor save. And you can take them in units of 2. I see these guys as being reasonable to summon.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
With what spell?
the monstrous infantry spell,
There's no
the signature.
monsters infantry spell.
Yeah,
Signature
it's
spell is
the,
monstrous infantry if you boost it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Ah,
Up to 150 points.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
So that'd be
Yeah.
450. That would be a unit of, my math's horrible. That'd be
5
Morghast Archies.
Yeah.
Oh, I never read that
Archives.
you could get monstrous infantry on the boosted one.
You know.
Ah, that's a good. Yeah, then they're a reasonable summon for sure.
Yeah, because even just having that -1, let's see here, units with this special rule, and all friendly units with the undead special rule within 12 inches of them suffer 1 less wound. What does that mean if you have 2 units? Do they suffer 2 less wounds?
Rules is written, brah. Yeah,
I don't know.
probably.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I think they're a reasonable summon. They're not bad for monstrous infantry. You know, strength and tough 5 with 4 wounds and a 4-up armor save. It's technically strength 6 because they'll have a halberd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for Nagash, 450 points of them, he's put
That's
in
5
of those
them,
guys on the table.
and they're flying effectively. Well, they're hover, but
yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's
Killing
nice
blow,
actually.
yeah.
it's not bad.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I'd pay to put them in the base army.
I'm not sure I would either, but I think they're fun to summon. You can even summon, just one of them if you, the 150 point version, or two of them if you throw
one token.
For one token.
Yeah, throw a token on or two.
Get two of them.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, and I quite like the models. They kind of look a little bit lizardy, undead lizardy
look to them,
which is neat.
Isn't the fluff? And maybe I didn't read it close enough. There's something out there. They're not human. There's some sort of dragon.
I think the fluff is that they're
race
just Nagash just built them out of bone and whatever image he wanted.
The apparently they come from long before the time of Sigmar. I think the god of light had these heralds that he sent to destroy the necromancer, to destroy Nagash, and Nagash basically went, "No way," and turned them all undead instead.
Nagash is such a badass.
He
How did
is
he
a
die
badass.
so many times?
Well, the whole world kind of conspired to kill him.
Turned on him.
But you know what? The whole Council of 13 and the Fellblade killed him.
Sigmar killed him.
Sigmar killed him, and the unit of chameleon skinks killed him.
Yeah.
So 3 deadliest things known to man.
Nagash's least ceremonious downfall.
Oversized meatball.
All right, so I think that kind of wraps up our
we're all nodding
section.
off.
Yeah, we
time
are.
to.
It's getting close to midnight, and I think that just leaves me to wrap things up. Say thank you very much, Jesse, for coming and
thanks for having me.
lending your undead wisdom. And if you enjoy listening to the podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you download us from. You can get in touch with us on our blog, on our forum. We have a Facebook page. We're on Twitter. Pick your poison. We're probably there somewhere. Just Google for Dimensional Cascade Podcast, and you'll find us around the place. We're always happy to take questions. If you have suggestions for the pit or suggestions for other things you'd like us to cover in Hobby Horse or in Art of War, we'd love to hear from you. I think that is our episode done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.